Folks, I better turn on my camera so you know who the voice, the face behind the voice, I guess. No radio voice at all, but anyway, so welcome, folks. We are another day of Ignite. You guys had one session previous to this, well, I guess you have two, but they condensed two sessions into one. So each instructor will do 2 units for every session. All right. So I think it was Laura Lee that covered on Monday, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes. Yep. Yep. It was Laura Lee. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so Laura Lee had to jump in very quickly. I hope she did a good job for you guys. It was a tough position to put her in because the instructors both in the morning said, "Hey, Laura, we're both sick. We can't make it." So unfortunately, she's like, "Oh, well, I guess I got to jump in and do my best." So she did her best. Hopefully, you guys get some good value out of it on Monday. And it's kind of the introduction to the whole Ignite thing. And it's talking about, for most, it's either, and the name kind of gives it away, Ignite, and it's igniting your career, your business in real estate. And it doesn't matter whether or not you're new or if you are an experienced agent, because sometimes we have ebbs and flows. We have good months, bad months, good years, bad years. And sometimes you get into a little bit of a sales rut. And it was funny because years ago I went to I think it was a training session that I went to, and they talked about being in a rut. And sometimes if you are in a rut, which means you're just not selling anything, or you're in a rut, but you're not experiencing any business growth. That's what they consider to be in a rut, which means you've plateaued. You know, maybe your rut is $250,000 commissions per year. You're doing 40 transactions, but you cannot break through that ceiling, right? And so you're in a rut. You're just doing the same thing every day over and over and over, and you're spinning your tires at that level. So how do you get to the next level? And so igniting your business is to either get it started or propel you into the next level. All right. So that's basically, I think, what Laura would have covered with you guys, talked about what Ignite is all about. Now, for me, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get into the slideshow. And it just, so you have to bear with me. This is only the second time I'm teaching this particular unit of Ignite. I used to do the contract to close, which I think is now going to be Laura, because Laura was scheduled to do the very last unit for Ignite here. And so Ignite is 12 units, but it's actually 24 because each session, there's 12 sessions, but there's 24 units. So each session has 2 units within it. Okay. And so I'm covering 2 sessions today, or 2 units on the session today. One is session unit 3, which is kind of being engaged with your market. And the second one is knowing your value. Okay. I'm more excited about getting into the second part because anybody that knows me and has spent any time with me, I just kind of start defaulting back into knowing your value and how you should be charging how you should be doing your business and what value you bring to your clients, and charge appropriately, right? People who get me onto that conversation, I'm very passionate about that. And I teach people, get in there and do the job the best you can. And I swear you will have no trouble getting what you charge. Being able to get the commission that you ask for without a lot of debate and negotiation, saying, "Oh no, the other guy came in and is charging me less." So, but regardless, I just kind of we spent a few minutes here. It's 6 minutes past 9. Um, I think I recognize just about every name on the screen right now. And so I want to introduce myself to anybody that doesn't know who I am. I'm Chad McLeod. I'm one of the sales agents at Keller Williams. Laura Lee and I joined Keller Williams 7 or 8 years ago. We were students of Ignite when we first got to KW, because we were not familiar with the KW systems and training when we first got there, like everybody else. And so, I be from a student into a teacher, I guess, in Ignite. I do have 28 years of real estate experience. I got into the real estate business in 1996, so I've been doing this a while. Um, Found myself in 2016 in that little bit of a rut, wondering, I didn't have a passion for real estate so much anymore. And so I had to figure out what else I should be doing, right? Maybe it was leaving real estate and pursuing some different career path. Because in 2016, I had roughly 20 years of real estate experience, but every day became the same, going in and doing the same thing over and over and over again. And I couldn't handle the monotony of it all, right? I just needed something different. And so what ended up coming back to me was a person that I consider to be a mentor, and we do have really good mentorship program at our office. Some of the people that are my mentees and that I mentor are here online with you guys today. But I heard Ian Brown's voice in the back of my head saying, wherever you are and whoever you are in life, you should always have a mentor and a successor, somebody that you learn from. You obtain that knowledge, but then he felt that you have a responsibility to pass that knowledge along to somebody that could make use of it. And that's what hit me back in 2016 when I was looking for some direction. And so I decided to start doing some teaching, and I did that. And a lot of you guys here that are online right now, Suzette, Jane, Mark, Jason, I see you guys there. Not Susan, I'm not sure if you've been with me on the pre-licensing, James Langell. You guys, I recognize your names from being part of our Wednesday night pre-licensing study sessions. And so I've been doing those pre-licensing study sessions for about 6 years now. All right. So that's a little bit of me giving back to the knowledge and helping people advance their careers. And of course, they always ask some of the more experienced agents in the office, would you be willing to come back and teach this or that, or have a session and talk about your experience about whatever element of real estate that they deem that it would be a good education session to share with the rest of the class. So that's a bit about me. I've got my own real estate team at the office. Have a bunch of people that I mentor, and I'm having a lot of fun with that. This again is the second time that I've taught this particular unit, these two units. One is like connecting with your market, and the other is knowing your value. And so I'm not as polished with this as I should be. So forgive me if a little bit of bumps in the road when we're going through this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to get into the course material, because anybody that was going to join us, you've had 10 minutes to do that, are on by now. All right, so we're going to get started. All right, just want to make sure that everybody can see my screen at this point. Yeah, perfect. All right, so I'm going to go to the slideshow. So what you see here is the instructor's slideshow, but unfortunately, we had a little bit of a glitch, and this is maybe part of my personality type. People stress all of a sudden when they're not extremely well prepared, and when something comes out of the blue, they panic. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy at all. I kind of like it, just jumping in and doing it. Other people who are a different personality type, very detailed oriented and so on, they're the ones that are like, they prepared for a week for this moment. Right. I got up, I was doing business up until 9 o'clock last night. And I was like, I got to get into the office first thing in the morning to be able to print out my instructor's manual. So, because I have to share my screen, and, it talks, this is prompting me, show the slides as participants come into the classroom. That's my instruction, right? You guys are not supposed to see this. Welcome to participants to Ignite. And it's connecting with your market. Introduce yourself briefly, and if this is your first encounter with your participants. So that's the instructor's slideshow. I'm going to go, this is not the one that we're going to use. We're going to use this one. Oh, no, not that one either. Bear with me.
Notice, Chad, they only allocated 0 minutes to this slide.
Yeah. So this is the Ignite, welcoming you guys to session 3, connecting with your market. All right. So to kind of preface connecting with your market, what does that mean exactly? Right? What does that mean, connecting with your market? Okay, basically, there's people have different business plans, different business objectives, different business focuses. All right, so a long time ago, I learned that being a market specialist you get paid more, and you are usually revered as a higher level of knowledge in your profession. And so being a specialist, compare yourself to say a doctor. You go to your general practitioner and it knows generally about everything, but then you go to your specialist if you need orthopedic surgery, or if you have your cardiologist for heart and respiratory issues and stuff like that. Those are the specialists, right? You don't want your general practitioner doing open heart surgery on you, right? And so the same thing kind of applies to the real estate market, right? Know your market. And so you just heard Mark, who talked about the time frame around the slideshow. But the thing is, Mark lives in Blue Rocks, which is down just outside of Lunenburg. Okay. And so there's a good chance that Mark is going to do a lot of business there and not in the Halifax area. And there's other people that they live in their neighborhood, and that's where they want to maybe focus their efforts. Okay. And so you become a geographic area specialist, right? I am not that. I do not focus in my own backyard. I never have, right? I looked at the Warren Buffett method of investing, and his philosophy is diversity, right? I looked at Jerry and Annette Murphy, who own this company, Keller Williams, and they have a niche market out in Fall River. They're known as the agents in Fall River. In 2012, I really looked at their book of business and I said, wow, they had something like 46 or 48 listings out there in 2012. And I said to Laura one day, right now, I wouldn't trade their book of business for mine, right? They're probably being yelled at on a daily basis. Why isn't my house selling? Why isn't my house selling? And I'm like, woo. When you're diversified and you work in every market, then that pressure is not on you. However, what this course is focusing in on is that you should focus on a specific marketplace and become that area specialist. Because looking back, I should have said, I would love to trade Jerry and Annette their book of business for mine, right? Because they were focused in, they're area specialists, and being an area specialist and connecting with your market allows you should know all of your data. You should know all of the information about your market. If you meet somebody at the grocery store and say, hey, specifically Jerry or Annette or Melissa, hey guys, how's everything going? How's the real estate market? They'd be able to tell you exactly what's going on. They've got their finger on the pulse in Fall River, better than anybody else, right? And so when the residents of that neighborhood realize, okay, time for a change in our lives, probably going to put the house on the market, who should we call? They are so well known because they know their market so well. And they're the ones that are getting the calls to do business out in the Fall River market, right? Now, me specifically, my market is my database, right? Because I spent, as long as I have in the real estate business, and my business comes from my database. And so for me, I will profess that I'm not a specific area market specialist. And sometimes I say I'm at a disadvantage because I rely so much on my database. That takes me just about anywhere, right? Anywhere in HRM, that's where I go because that's where I've helped my clients buy and sell because I didn't focus on my market. I focused on my database. And so when I go into a market that I haven't been in 6 or 8 months, I'm a bit of a disadvantage because I have to go in there and I have to learn all about that market for the first time or to refresh myself after 8 months, where other people in that market are more identified as market specialists and they know the market way better than I do, right? So I have to go there and I have to put in a full energy or full effort to be able to get caught up in that market. And it doesn't usually take me that long. But again, if somebody says, well, what do you think my house is worth? There's other people that could have walked in the first time and said, this is what it's worth. Why? Because they've been in all of the houses that are listed for sale, showing their buyers, or they've listed and sold a lot of the houses similar to that. So they can tell you right off the cuff. That's why I usually do a 2-step CMA, market analysis. I go in and then I get all the information. I go away, I do the market analysis, and I come back and present. And it's mostly because I'm not an area specialist in any given neighborhood, right? And so this unit is talking specifically about that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go over the different factors and research to consider to be prepared before you go into a meeting with a client, whether it's a buyer or a seller. And so that's what they say it's becoming the real estate expert of choice, right? Like Jerry and Annette. you are the real estate expert of choice because nobody knows this market better than you. All right. There are some exercises that you are asked to do when you deal with some trainers. Okay, and this might be when you guys are dealing with Maggie McGilvery with the productivity coaching. She's going to want to find your path to success, and that is, what are your lead generation exercises? And subsequent to this session, these two sessions today, you're going to get into a lot of lead generation exercises. Okay, I think the next 3 or 4 are different ways for you to be able to generate. Well, it's right on my screen here. Generate your leads, grow your database, capture leads with social media, capture more leads. So, I mean, keep every lead. Follow up with leads. So that's a big thing. Why? Because Gary Keller, who helped design this course and had a huge influence on this, that's what he talks about. You're in the lead generation business, right? You should be every day allocating time to be out, reaching out, finding more business to do. And part of what we're going to talk about in this session is, the ebbs and flows of the real estate market. How to identify with the market, the characteristics of the market, what type of market is it, right? And so we're going to talk about that in this session. And it's basically kind of looking at, in this moment of time, right? What is the market? But you have to see a broader spectrum of what the market is and how it became to be and what it's going to be going forward, right? And so Gary Keller back in 2018 said, we're coming into a shift, guys. You have to double down on your lead generation efforts. If you did $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 or $80,000 of business this year, you're going to have to do twice as much work to do the same level of business, because this shift is coming and life is going to get a little harder, right? It's not going to be so easy. And the days of us opening doors and filling out blanks on a piece of paper is no more. It's gone, right? Because that was through the whole pandemic. Because when Gary's saying the shift is coming and it's just around the corner, then the pandemic hit and it turned this market upside down. And it was the best times in real estate ever in Nova Scotia specifically. But that's changed because all it did was postpone the shift. And now having these Ignite courses comes on the coattails of this pandemic, right? Because now we went through the high spots and everybody got their real estate license. I'm going to make $1 million. However, things are shifting like Gary projected, and it has really changed the characteristics of the market. Understanding your market is going to be critical to winning business over your competitors, especially experienced agents that did not join the real estate business during the pandemic when the times were good and all you had to do to show your talent was open the door and fill out blanks on an offer. Okay? Because I saw so much of that 2020, 2021, and 2022, early 22, that I was appalled, and I was very vocal about it. Like our industry is losing professionalism because there's no talent in it anymore. There's zero talent. You don't have to exercise talent or skills, but this is why you guys are here. And kudos to you guys for participating in Ignite, because this is going to show you how to be better, tougher real estate agents, how to build in that work ethic every day to be able to propel yourself above the competition who don't know how to do what you're going to be trained to do. Okay, I shared this with Mark, I think yesterday or a few days ago, and that I'm winning negotiations consistently now because I'm dealing with agents that don't have the skills that we developed over our careers, and they're not investing in this education. I mean, how many people do we have at KW? 176, 180? Oh, sorry, 276 to 280. Sorry. Okay. And I think if I look at the number of participants on here, we've got maybe 12. Okay. If you're not participating in the training, guess what? You're going to be they are going to be at a disadvantage to you guys, because you're going to learn how to be able to do a more effective job in your marketplace, in your negotiations, so that you're going to win more business and you're going to achieve higher and better results for your clients. The other folks that aren't here and participating, well, I don't know. They're going to have a struggle, and they're going to be like, why aren't I making as much money as these guys over here? Right? Well, it's pretty obvious, because you're absent during the time you should be present, which is dealing with the training. Okay. So I'm going to go on to say, when you deal with Maggie McGilvery, she's going to push you guys or guide you guys. It shouldn't should push, but there should be a little bit of pushing as a coach. I got to push you a little harder than you are because you're coasting right now. And if you want to reach those goals that we set, I got to push you a little harder. And some of the things that we constantly hear, I'll bring up the next slideshow. It says, here's the truth. If it has been done in another market, it can be done in your market. Once it has been done, no matter where, it's just a matter of finding out how it would be possible in your world. Okay. So this came from Gary Keller, and he referenced The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, which is the book everybody's given when you join KW. All right. And so everybody should have a copy of that, but everybody should also read it. Okay. It is a roadmap to the success of a real estate career. Right. And it's the first thing you're given when you join KW. And if you don't have it, get a copy of it. There's plenty of them at the office. Okay. And there is a lot of truth in that. And specifically Nova Scotians, I heard this a lot, Maritimers, not Nova Scotians, Maritimers. That doesn't work here. They get these trainers that come in from all over the world, especially like the United States. Yeah, that might work in the States, but that doesn't work here. You can't do that here in this market. People would not buy into that or believe in that, and that just won't work. How many times I've heard that over my career? It's insane. But that's the mindset, and it's not accurate. When I was with a different real estate company, there was a coach dealing specifically with door knocking, right? Very like, get out of your comfort zone. You want to spend some time with this guy. He sends you to the door with a script, and there's only like 5 questions. And some of the guys that the people here came from that company, and other people that I've mentored or mentor now, they've heard the script. And there's only 5 questions you ask, and it's like, he believes in getting the shit off the table. You're there to ask them, are you selling? And that's the first question. Hey, it's Chad here from Keller Williams Select Realty. When do you plan on moving? That's the question. They answer the door, and that's what the first thing that comes out of your mouth. And it's kind of shock. Ooh, what do you mean? When am I planning on moving? Yeah, right. That's the question, because that's what you're here to find out and get it off the table. And when he came to the Maritimes with that script, he's like, oh, no, that might work in BC. That might work in Ontario, but that doesn't work here. What Gary is saying here is that the truth is, if it's been done in other markets, it can be done here. It's just a mindset. It's a limiting belief that you have that it won't work here. And it's a way for you to kind of push the uncomfortable, that comfort zone, right? If you're uncomfortable with doing it, you're going to push it away, and you don't want to go door to door having that script, right? It stops you from having to go, right? But that is an absolute true statement, because I put that script into practice, and I told people it took me 3 days to get out of the car and start knocking on my first door. I was that uncomfortable. But I did it. I persisted, and I went door to door, and there were days you couldn't stop me. I had to get to the next door, and then I had to get to the next door, and I had, because it pulled me in. I was loving it. And so that proves it works. It worked in other markets, and it's also going to work here. Okay. And that's basically the moral of that. Sorry for just a second. All right. Knowing and connecting with your market. It's all about research and preparation. Okay. And so if you're going to be known as a real estate specialist, okay, you have to be knowledgeable. You have to be knowledgeable. So become an expert is all about knowledge. Sorry, I'm reading off the instructor comments down there. It's knowing about your marketing and connecting with the market in unique and consistent ways. So when you look at social media, or you look at people like I've been talking to James Langell, who's one of my mentees. He's here, James. Good morning. James is looking at his specific neighborhood, and he's gone around and he's delivered some marketing pieces in his neighborhood. He's introduced himself to his market and his neighbors, because James is eventually going to want to know. He wants to be known now, but he's working on being the market real estate expert that everybody goes to, right? Now, we talked about geographic farming and knowing your market, and basically you have to keep in touch. And the consistent word, the word of unique and consistent ways of connecting with your market. If you're not consistent with it, you're not going to have the level of success that you want. You go knocking and introduce yourself. Yes, you might get the low-hanging fruit at first, which means, hey, hi, I'm James Langell here from Keller Williams Select Realty. I live in the neighborhood. I'm a real estate agent, and I want to be, introduce myself and my real estate services. If ever you're thinking about selling, I'd love to help you, whatever. However, if he only does that once, yes, he might say, well, run into somebody that says, hey, well, that's good timing, James, because, my wife and I were just thinking about, we're thinking about selling. When can you come over, talk to us? Okay, that's the low-hanging fruit. You just got lucky. However, You go and you meet nobody that's looking at selling. You go again, you meet nobody that's selling. So you give up. This is not working. Well, it's the consistency behind it that makes it work. They say you have to do it around 7 times to really see the results, right? Do something 7 times and you'll start seeing the results. People will start recognizing you. People will then open up to you. You're familiar now. And so you're probably going to start getting appointments to get in there. But you have to connect with your market in unique and consistent ways. And excuse me, James did a lot of unique things. And one of those things that he presented me was one of his marketing pieces. And I was like, wow, this definitely has a really good first impression. It's so well done. It's so professional. It stood out to me. All right. But he did it in he had his own signature on it. He had his own branding and his own unique way of conveying a message. Right. So I said, James, you got to keep that up. Right. You made a good first impression, but now you have to keep the ball rolling. And that is connecting with your market in unique and consistent ways. Okay. Now, when I start a presentation dealing with a seller or a buyer, I specifically talk about, and what they talk about is knowing your market, micro and macro markets. Okay, well, what does that mean specifically? Kind of the broader scope right down to the individual neighborhood or street, knowing all of that. Okay, so when I introduce, say, my buyer presentation, when I sit down with a buyer and we talk about the weather and get to know each other, great. Then when I start doing my presentation, the first thing I say is there's 2 of the most important calls that you need to make when you start the buying journey in real estate. First one you called the real estate agent. So here I am. And I'm really happy to meet with you today. Thanks for taking the time. Second most important call is to the mortgage specialist, right? Have you connected with a mortgage specialist to be able to get a pre-approval to know that you can afford or be able to borrow a mortgage against the house and to get your pre-approval done and out of the way, because it's instrumental that you do that. And once we get past that, the very next conversation I have, which I feel you and everybody should adopt, what's the real estate market today? What's the climate of the real estate market? I want to talk to you about that as my client or my potential client. Okay. What do you guys know about the real estate market today? And feel free, I'm asking you guys here again tonight. How do you feel about the real estate market? How do you feel about your specific market? Because I know there's people that are here that live in various parts of the province or various parts of the city. Let's share a little bit with each other. How do you feel about the real estate market? What is the market in your area right now? Don't all talk at once.
I know that in our area in the South Shore, according to the stats, show that it's a balanced market. It's got an absorption rate of about 54%.
Wow. Okay. That's perfect. That's almost dead on. That's almost dead on a balanced market.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
And if things are priced right, they sell, and if they're overpriced, they will sit on the market for a while.
Right on. Yep. Is somebody else in a different type of market?
Hi, Chad. Inventory is really low in Dartmouth, and so that's causing a lot more still competitive offer situations, especially under the $500,000 price point. So it's still a difficult market to get purchasers into their home.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And hello, Karina. Love that you joined us. Karina, how long have you been in the real estate business?
This is my 18th year.
Right on. So, and let this be a lesson to everybody. 18 years in the real estate business, still improving her knowledge and sharpening her skills, right? It never stops, right? If you're invested in your business, in your career, right? It never stops. Somebody said something to me yesterday. Well, I thought I'd call you and ask you because you know everything. No, I don't. I am constantly learning, right? If we stop learning, again, 2016, I almost left the real estate business. I learn when I teach. It's such a rewarding thing. And it helps me, as I've shared with Mark yesterday, when we're negotiating, like everything that we learn in the pre-licensing course is fresh in mind. And I am steamrolling some of the agents out there because they're like, I don't know how to answer that. Right? Well, you should, because you're a real estate professional. You've been taught, or at least you should know it, but you don't because you're not paying attention. right? You're not sharpening your skills. So kudos to you, Karina. And yes, there it is. So we want a balanced market too. What would you consider your market to be, Karina, over there?
It's
of-
definitely a seller's market still.
Right. Yeah. And we're going to learn just in a few minutes what a seller's market actually is. And Mark kind of described it based on absorption rate. We'll talk about absorption rate in a quick minute. So knowing your market specifically, I look at it as a market climate. And sometimes I go as broad as federal policies, right? Do you think federal policies affect our markets? Of course they do. What about the foreign buyer ban? Did that affect our market? Yep, sure did. How about when the Bank of Canada rate goes up or down? Does that affect our market? And we'll talk about that in a bit. But sometimes it's, there's a federal election coming up and everybody should be paying attention. There's municipal elections coming up. There's going to be in the next year a provincial election coming up. And if you're not paying attention to what's going on when it comes to politics and political platforms and agendas that they're going to try and implement, if you don't think that that has an impact on our real estate markets locally, you haven't given it enough thought. So sometimes I talk about that when I first sit down and meet with a new client, right? And so I start broad and then we start defining their wants and needs and areas and price range and things like that. So that kind of molds their or funnels these particular clients into a marketplace, right? If you're buying $500,000 homes, $400,000 to $500,000 homes, you're going to be in a specific marketplace because you're not downtown Halifax, right? You're not downtown Dartmouth because you can't find those kind of prices anymore there, right? So that pushes those buyers into specific markets, right? And so what's going on in those specific markets? And I talked about Jerry and Annette's market in 2012. It was such a buyer's market at that point in time. Like Jerry and Annette had 48 listings in the market, all similar houses, all similar priced houses, and they had 48 of them to try and unload. Pretty good if you can only sell maybe less than 10% of that because you're a month, because you're still selling 4 to 5 houses a month, right? And these are all $300,000 to $400,000 or $500,000 homes back in the day, 2012. So that's pretty good for commission, if you can only sell shy of 10% of those listings. However, the other 90% of those people are tapping their fingers on the desk and they're phoning Jerry and Annette and saying, how come you're not selling my house? Well, they're doing their best and they're very effective at what they do. But unfortunately, it was such a strong buyer's market for that period of time. But why? Right? Then that wasn't the case in other markets, right? That was specific to that particular market and that particular price range, right? And so you just have to know those things, right? And you have to be able to look at the factors of a micro and macro real estate market, okay? Understanding.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
When we're talking about markets, is there such a thing as like a sub-market, like category, like vacant land or farmland, or like would those be considered? I know
Yeah.
I've got some people who are looking at like farmland, so they want like 50 to 100 acres, and like
Yep.
looking all over Nova Scotia, it's few and
Yep.
far between to find them. So even though the regular market might be good,
Yep.
what they're looking for is low for what their category of shoppers is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And that's you becoming a specialist in a specific trade, right? Or a specific area of the market. So you just take the diversity of our brokerage, for instance. Do you guys know Andrew Perkins?
No.
Does anybody know? Come on. Andrew's a secret agent. He's such a high producing professional agent. I love him. But his forte, condominiums. If you want to know anything about condos, and hopefully you all don't go blowing up Andrew's phone because I said so, but if you need to know anything about a condo, Andrew guaranteed would know the answer. If not, he could find the answer within 2 minutes. Okay. But his forte, his specialty, he's known to be a condominium specialist. Pat Cassidy, do you guys know that name? He's a real estate lawyer here in Halifax. Pat Cassidy helped write the Condo Act of Nova Scotia, and he is constructed most of the condominium declarations, right? When you get the declaration bylaw and stuff, he writes most of them. right? So he's known as a condo specialist in the legal profession, right? Criminal or so on. Same thing in real estate, right? You can be Lowell McDonald. He's a real estate agent in our office, came over from Prince Edward Island to be with his grandkids. He's a specialist in farmland and now multifamily units, but he's probably sold more farms in the province of Prince Edward Island than anyone else. So if you're going to sell your farm, who would you call? Right. So Suzanne, if you're looking at selling farms, be careful, right? Stay in your lane. Don't go trying to sell farmland in Cape Breton. Refer it off to a Cape Breton agent. Stick with the area that you know, because it's a specialty market, and there's different things that you should know or are deemed to know that you may not know when you step outside of your area of expertise. Okay, you might know farms, but you don't know farms in Cape Breton or the North Shore of Nova Scotia, up around Pugwash, Malagash, a lot of farm area up in there, as opposed to down the South Shore maybe, or over in the Annapolis Valley. So be careful what you choose to do, and stick within your market, the market that you're most experienced in. Okay, but there are, yes, you're right, submarkets, right down to the type of real estate that you practice. You could be in development or vacant land. I did a lot of things in new construction, foreclosure work. I've done a lot of different type of real estate because I like diversity and I like learning about new things. And so there are certain things that I could say, yes, I'm probably the most experienced at this, right? Foreclosure work. I don't know anybody that did more foreclosure work than I have. Sandy Rutledge, maybe, but he's now retired. He used to do all CIBC stuff. I used to do HSBC and Household Financial, and then I did some for Royal Bank and Toronto Dominion, Street Capital. I've done a lot of foreclosures for a lot of different banks, and I don't know that anybody has more foreclosure experience than I am. So I could say that I am a foreclosure specialist because there's not much that I don't know about the whole process, and so that's me and my claim to fame. Andrew can stand up and say I'm a condo specialist, and somebody else in the office like Susan Young and definitely Ryan McNeil, he's a builder, right? He knows everything about construction, right? So that's and they know their markets, right? But that's the thing about an area specialist, right? So it talks about what kind of markets do you know already. Okay, we've touched on it. Mark said it's a balanced market. Karina said it's a seller's market. I said it was a buyer's market for Jerry and Annette back in 2012, but all through 13, 14, and 15 was a buyer's market as well. Okay. So what are important numbers to know about your market? Okay. What important? So you guys tell me, if you're going to assess a market, what are the important numbers to know?
List to sale ratio,
Which means what?
what a property sells for compared to what it's listed for.
Right. Okay. So the list of sale price. Okay. If it's listed, and it's very difficult, guys, you're in a difficult time because everybody's now coming back to that. Pre-COVID, I could tell you exactly my statistics, and you should be too. You should be able to tell your statistics, your list of sale ratios. Now, it throws everything off during the pandemic because it was the Wild West of real estate, and people were throwing such ridiculous, crazy, over-asking prices that there was just absolutely no rhyme or reason, and you couldn't quantify anything. There was no such thing as a market analysis. And when I spoke to Mark yesterday, we were doing a CMA together, and that's basically where it was back then. You just didn't do a CMA. It's whatever you want to pay for it. Highest price wins, period. Right? You could use a little bit of information in the market to say, well, last 3 houses like this in this area did sell for around this, but that doesn't mean anything right now. You could have some guy from BC or some lady coming in from Ontario that's going to parachute in and pay, $50,000 more than that price, right? Because that's just what's happening. But now you're having to sharpen your skills to deal with becoming more the market expert and talking about pricing strategies again. Not that you didn't have to do pricing strategies, but it's a little bit more difficult to interpret the market in the shifting market because now buying and selling behaviors are starting to normalize. Okay. So yes, list to sale ratios before pre-pandemic, I could tell you exactly what month you could get the most amount of money. Okay, so I will, go back to the historical data in your Paragon MLS system and look at these months. In the month of April, you're going to achieve about 97% list to sale ratio. In May, you're going to be 98.5 to 99% list to sale ratio in May. In June, it falls back to 98 to 97.5. Prove me wrong. Go back into those anywhere before 2019 and before, and watch those monthly patterns. July and August, they slide back to more like 96, 97%. So in the winter months, you're at about 95, 93% list to sale values. Check the stats. So that's great. Wow, you know your stats, don't you? Yeah, you should. Back then, I would talk to people about my specific list to sale ratios, right? Because if your list to sale ratios are higher than the average, and knowing the average, then you're going to win the business. Yes, you could hire them, but do you know that they achieve 95% list to sale ratio? They achieve 95% list to sale ratio. I achieved 98.3. That was my stats. My list to sale ratio is 98.3%. I know because I studied it and I knew my numbers. Threw completely off during the pandemic, and so we're coming back to that again. We're going to list for this. We would expect to achieve 97% of this price. That's our goal here. We're going to list it at this. We're going to have to negotiate because we're no longer in a seller's market. In some cases, like where Mark is now and where I am, because I did an assessment this morning on my market area to know, what kind of market am I in right now, right where I live. And so I'm also in a balanced market. There's 6 months of inventory right now in my market. And I'm going to show you quickly how to do that calculation. But there's 6 months of inventory, which means I'm in a balanced market here.
Chad, may I?
Yep.
When you refer to your market, can you tell me specifically what you're talking about?
My market is where I live.
Oh, like your local area.
Right. I live in Hatchet Lake off Prospect Road.
Right.
Okay. And so my area on Prospect Road. So I live in a district 40, MLS District 40, and it's a big district. It goes from Prospect all the way out to Tantallon, actually down almost to Hubbard's. And so it's divided into 4 sub-districts, A, B, C, and D. So I go into sub-district B, 40B. That's my marketplace. And so when I looked at it this morning, I said, okay, there's 60 houses that sold in the last 8 months since the beginning of the year, 60 houses. There are 46 houses listed for sale currently. Okay. So you divide 61 by 8 to see how many houses sell per month. So there's 7.6 houses that sell per month. Okay. But now we have currently 46 listings on the market. How long is it going to take to sell all 46 houses if not one more house gets listed for sale? So you divide 46 by 7.6, and it tells you that you have 6 months worth of inventory. So when 6 months you have of inventory, that means you have 6-month market supply, and that's a good balanced market. So we're going to get to that on the next slide. Okay, so here it is. These are the 3 types of markets: buyer's market, balanced market, seller's market. Buyer's market means, like where Jerry and Annette were, there were more than 7 months worth of inventory in the market. If not one more listing came on the market, it would take 7 months at the current rate for the whole inventory to be depleted. Okay, so that's a buyer's market. A balanced market from 5 to 7 months of inventory. And Prospect right now where I am, it's bang on 6 months. So it's a very balanced market where I am. 54% absorption rate in Blue Rocks area where Mark is. Very good balanced market. Where Karina is, seller's market, there's less than 5 months of inventory. There's an inventory shortage in the Dartmouth market. You can watch that because the Dartmouth market is the more affordable market to live in. So people are migrating from Halifax over to Dartmouth because it's more affordable place to live than Halifax. So there they go. And they're depleting all of the inventory over there. So there's more demand than there is supply, right? So you have to know the type of market that you're in. And I just did the calculation with you. Do you guys want me to explain that again, or did you understand what I explained when it comes to the absorption rate?
I would love you to explain it again so I can write it down.
Okay, no problem. So what I'll do is I'm going into Paragon here, close this out. I'm going to go into residential sales. I'm going to go into everything that's sold. Okay. And I want to know in a certain period of time, how many sales happened. So I'm going to go January 1st until today. So that is like basically 8 months, right? Because we're just into September. I want to know 8 months worth of inventory. Okay. I want to know my district, which is District 40. You see that, Prospect, Timberlea, St. Margaret's Bay, and Sub-District 40B, specifically my market. But I want to know, I don't want everything. I don't want semi-detached home. I'm dealing with a single family dwelling. Let's say that, right? So I want to go, what type? We're going to go single family. I don't want duplexes and multifamily. I want detached homes because that's the listing that I'm about. And then bango, there's 62. Okay. 62 properties that have sold in the last 8 months in this district. Now, divide 62 by 8. Okay, you get 7.6, right? So that's how many houses sell per month. Now we're going to go to the same area, but we want to know how many active properties there are in area 40, Sub-District 40B, type, single family, save, style, detached. So now we're apples to apples here. And there are 45. Okay, so there are 45 active listings. So now that you know that there's 45 active listings and 7.5 houses sell, 7.6 houses sell per month on average, divide 45 by 7.6, and it will tell you how many months of inventory. If not one more house gets listed, how long is it going to take at a rate of 7.5 sales per month to deplete the inventory? That's the absorption rate, 7.5 houses a month. So 45 divided by 7.6 gives you 6, right? 6 months of inventory on the market. So then you go back to your, okay, is that understandable to everybody? Okay, everybody follows the calculations there? All right, so when you go back to this, you say, okay, if I look at 6 months of inventory, where do I fall? Do I fall in a buyer's market, balanced market, or seller's market? Right? So obviously, when you're sitting and presenting to your clients, know the type of market you're in. We are now in a balanced market. Okay. And there are different techniques and approaches to selling houses in a balanced market. You now have competition, right? You have choice, buyers. And what usually happens in a balanced market with market times? In a seller's market, are market times higher or lower? Days on market.
Lower.
Right. They're lower. In a seller's market, things fast. They sell fast. What about a balanced market as opposed to a seller's market? Do you usually take longer to sell a house or a shorter time to sell a house in a balanced market?
Longer.
Right. What about a buyer's market? Exceptionally long, right? So just knowing that when you're sitting down talking to your clients, you have to set expectations. And basically that helps you to set the price. Knowing your market's going to help you guide them with the right price, because if they're in a buyer's market and they put their house too high in price, they're never going to sell. They're going to help sell all of their competition around them. They're not going to sell their own home because they priced it too high, and buyers are like, well, I have a lot of choice here. Why am I going to overpay for your house when I can get a better deal down the street for almost the same house, right? And so knowing the market is absolutely critical when it comes to listing and helping negotiate.
Chad, I have a question.
Sure.
Just about your calculation for the absorption rate. You were using January 1st as the date.
Yeah.
Should you always be using January 1st, even in the first half of the year? Or can you sometimes go back 12 months, or how does that work?
Yeah, you can go back 12 months, but the unfortunate part is, and this is where the formula is not 100% accurate. It's somewhat flawed, but so I've had, and that's a great question, and thanks for asking that, because I did have that in my notes, and that talking about absorption rate, there's a different absorption rate when it comes to the spring market, the summer market, the fall market, and the winter market, right? The absorption rates are all different. These are just average, right? Because sales in August probably haven't been the same as they were in May or June, right? The absorption rate was a lot faster. Depending on the type of market timing, okay, at this moment in time, we are now in March. Okay, well, what's the absorption rate? I can use the 12-month theory, but the absorption rate's not going to be the same in March as it was in last June, right? And so you can, it's just, the absorption rate is a certain period of time. So, gauge it accordingly, right? If you want to know what the absorption rate was from November until the end of March, well, then use that block period of time. Or if you want to go from March 1st until June 1st, what is the absorption rate looking like, right? Because we're now going to list in the first part of March and we want to be off the market by June, right? What are the statistics saying about the absorption rate for this period of time, right?
But what would be considered the standard when because you're using that number to figure out what kind of market you're in. So is there not some standard that's used amongst the industry, or?
There isn't, no.
No.
Right? You can get examples to say, for instance, a 12-month, do the 12-month thing, but then they're averaging 12 months, right? They're not, that is the average, right? When you talk about average price and median price, kind of the same theory, okay? You average it out. So on average, there's 7.6, let's say, houses sold all year long per month. Well, that's not true for, say, December, right? Lower in December, but the median sales are happening, most of the sales are happening in the spring market. So understanding even when you go into your market statistics in Paragon and say, well, what's the average price? What's the median price? Well, what's the difference? Do you guys know? Well, the average price is the average, like what's the average absorption rate every month? Well, that's spread out over the whole year. And no, it's not, you're not getting 7.6 sales in December. You might get maybe 3 or 2 sales in December and 14 in June or May. So the median, okay, time for sales is maybe April, May, and June. Okay, that is when most sales are transpiring. Like median price, that's where most buyers are buying, in that median price range. The average is from the lowest to the highest, add them all up and divide by 20. Okay, that gives you the average price. Okay, so that's the difference between median and average price. Same thing when it comes to absorption rates. All right, you can't overthink it, but you will, do it in a number of different ways. If you want to use different times of the year, different months from this period to this period, and all of that, to see how that changes your numbers. All right, but to specifically dial into that period of time in that particular market, you might be better to shorten up that period of time that you're assessing. Don't go beyond June or July. Don't go back further than March, right? And that will give you a better indication of what the market is doing when it comes to absorption rate. Okay.
Chad, would you calculate in any instance, based on like, May to August of this year and compare it and share that with sellers for next summer?
Yep.
And then the summer before that, so like comparing apples to apples, like May to August of this past year and last year, and saying, well, over the last couple of years, this is what it's been. So
Yep.
This is a good place to start, or is that inaccurate?
No, you can do that, but you have to understand that's global thinking then. You have to start thinking more globally to say what influenced the market last year or 2 years ago, right? If we did that in the 1990s, you could very easily do that because our market in Halifax, specifically, or Nova Scotia, didn't change. Inflation and prices in Halifax, you could map it year over year. It's going to increase by 4%. That's healthy. Next year, it's going to increase by 4% and 4% and 4%. So over 4 years that the value of your house should go up by about 16%. That you could predict. But there's a lot of economic factors right now that are influencing a market, and that's where the micro and macro markets come into play. Where you have to know, you got to think bigger, right? When I keep talking to people that I help and I train at the office, I'm like, guys, you got to think bigger than this. You just don't go in and show the house and say, isn't this a beautiful home? Let's write the offer and fill out the blanks. You can't do that. That's not talent. That's not being professional. You got to see outside of that. You have to look at external factors. Have you ever showed a house and had to stand around in the backyard and say, pick up your head and look around the neighborhood? See what your neighbors are like. Hey, that guy over there is piling up a bunch of wood pallets. He's got cars stored in his backyard from 1988. The back of his roof looks like it's ready to blow off any day now. And that guy down there, he's got like a big diesel engine truck all these things are external factors that you have to pick up your head and you have to pay attention to, that because they are all things that are going to affect the value of a property. But the same thing goes to a real estate market, right? You just can't focus on the house and try and sell it. You have to look at everything that affects it, right? And so if you go back last year, you have to figure out what affected the real estate market last year. Well, what are the things that are in play now? Because last year, say March, 2 years ago, foreign buyer ban didn't exist, but now they implemented it. They put a moratorium on bringing in international students. They scaled back on that. They're taking the pressure off our market. They put the interest rates up. So all of these changes at work are affecting our real estate market. And if you don't know that they put a foreign buyer ban in, if you don't know that they put a moratorium on international students, if you're not watching the interest rates that just went down last week, okay, if you're not in tune with these things, you cannot convey that stuff to help educate your clients to make a good decision, right? If you don't know that, but I do as a competing real estate agent, I'm going to come in there and compete for the business. And who do you think is likely to get the business? You or the more experienced agent or the more knowledgeable agent? Doesn't even have to be experienced. A lot of you guys are on the same level of experience in real estate. One person walks in and they're like, they can't answer all these questions that this consumer has, but the other person comes in and they have an answer for everything. And they get the market stats and data to back it up. And that's why it says know your market, because you're going to win more business and you're going to be revered as the professional, right? And when you are, and you say, yeah, I charge 5% to list your house, and you're like, well, the last guy that knew nothing was going to charge me 4%. Okay, well, would you rather deal with the guy that knows nothing and will charge 4%, or would you like to deal with me where I charge 5%? But I'm going to tell you, I know what I'm doing and I'm going to get you the highest and best results you can get, right? You're going to win the business. So the other thing too, knowing about what is the average number of days that a house stays on the market, right? Why is that important? Why is the average number of days on the market
Wouldn't it
important?
Because
maybe influence their motivation to sell?
Yeah, would you agree, James?
yes, I would agree. And I would elaborate on that and say that it sets the expectations as well, which is important.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I'm all about setting expectations. Get used to doing that, guys, because if you don't set expectations, nobody's upset about good surprises. But when you get a bad surprise, how does that affect your relationship with the client? You didn't prepare for them and something came sideways out of the blue. Whoa. They don't like that. So you got to set the expectations of what might happen, good or bad. Okay. Average days on the market. It does absolutely help to set the price. Okay. The higher the price, do you think it'll sell faster? Okay. If you put a bigger price on a house above market value, what you can establish as market value, do you think it'll sell faster?
No, only if it looks special.
Right? No, general rule of thumb, if you overprice it, it's going to sit and sit and sit and it's going to age. And then all of a sudden you're in damage control mode, right? Mark and I talked about this yesterday about it, pricing properties. You overprice it, it's going to sit, it's going to sit, it's going to sit. And the seller talked you up to a price it's not achievable. Buyers just don't pay that kind of price in this market for this type of property. You went with the seller's price and you're just sitting there and sitting there. You're doing everything you possibly can do to sell it. And the seller's like, you're not doing enough. Maybe you're not a good enough salesperson. It's your fault. You're not selling this house for me. And wrong. My fault was listening to you and putting the price on that you wanted instead of you listening to me as the market expert. I'm telling you, you overpriced it. And because you've overpriced it, you're spending more time on the market than you should. Buyers are picking up on that. And now if I told you could sell your house for $525, you're probably going to have to expect $500 now, because they say you're way over the market, average market time. So what does everybody think? Mark and I talked about this yesterday. What does everybody think when there's a house that's just sitting and sitting and sitting and not selling? What does everybody think?
There's something wrong with it.
Number one answer, 100% of the time. What's wrong with that house that it's not selling? There's nothing wrong with the house. It's a beautiful house. It's just overpriced. Okay. So the number of days on the market can go against you. Okay. So when you look at the average number of days on the market, so when you look at the 4 good comparables of a property, it's time and market value, right? There's 2 out of the 4, time and market value. Time meaning it's a recent sale. And market value is established by multiple sales where buyers and sellers are not acting with undue pressure. Okay, I'm not highly motivated to buy or highly motivated to sell to throw off the price. And so when you look at the average market value of a property, you also have to look at the market time, because it will all fall in line. Market value will give you the average market time. So in order to sell a house in this price range, in this market value range, it generally takes 30 days. So if we go above this market average price for an asking price, what do you think is going to happen to the market time? It's going to go up. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, how long do you want to be on the market? When do you need to move? Because this is when you do your needs analysis. When do you need to move? When do you have to move on to your new place? Well, I have to be out by October. Okay, so that does affect what we should be pricing your house at, because I know the average number of days on the market is 30. If you price it in this average range, if you're above that, you're probably going to take longer. Could be 45 days, could be 2 months. I don't want to wait 2 months. Well, my advice then would be to stay closer to the average market value number that's been indicated on my assessment. Okay, so that's how market value and number of days on markets work. Oops, sorry. What is the average price for a home in your market that it sells for? Everybody wants to know that, right? And so we just talked about that as well. And based on inventory, what type of real estate market are you in? So if you look at your market, your absorption rate, okay, now I can tell you how should we properly and effectively price your home at this point, right? So knowing that is critical. Other factors that influence the market and prices. So what just happened with the interest rate? Does everybody know what just happened to the interest rate?
Went down 4.25.
Right, so the interest rate went down. Okay, that is something that you should know, because that's going to have an effect. Over the next 3 weeks, watch the real estate market. The absorption rate will go up. People are going to go out there and they're going to start buying houses again. The reason why they brought the interest rates down is because market prices are coming down and they've combated inflation. But this definitely affects market values and market activity, time on the market. You will start seeing if there's in your marketplace specifically, if you're seeing that prices are starting to fall and come down, you're going to see that level off and stabilize. You might even start it to rebound a little bit and prices will start trickling up, because now there's more buyers out in the market picking up these houses, depleting the inventory. And when that happens, like, oh my God, it's coming into the end of the season. I don't want to wait till next spring to buy my house. God knows what's going to happen next year. Interest rates go up, prices go up. I could lose my job. God knows. But I need to get my house before the end of this year. And so there's a little bit of pressure on the buyers to get out there and get their houses purchased so that they can move in and hibernate for the winter. And so you're probably going to see, because the interest rates are going down, you're going to see a little bit of the market values starting to trickle up in different areas and different marketplaces. Okay, so that's how interest rates are going to affect the market. But also, they talk about lending policies and lender regulations, right? You all remember 2008, the crash of the subprime market? Okay, there was a total reform of the lending policies around the world for the most part. But just look at the difference between the lending policies pre-2008 and post-2008. There's total reform, right? They looked at it and said, wow, look at all the high-risk areas of our lending policies. Let's tighten up the string so this doesn't happen again. It put the whole world in a crisis, a financial crisis, right? Every country in the world felt it, except for China. But they changed the lending policies. So what happened to the first-time home buyer no down payment program? All lenders used to have 0% financing. You could buy a house 100% finance plus 3% cash back. They changed that. So that took a lot of buyers out of the market. So different things like that will influence the market, whether the market will be stronger or weaker, whatever have you. Okay, so those are the influencing factors, but you should know that. What happens when the interest rate goes up? Watch what they're talking about from the Bank of Canada standpoint. my sellers, my buyers, all spring long, were like, I hear they're going to start scaling back, right? They're going to start scaling back on the interest rates. And like, yep, that's the rumor. But we have to watch this and see what actually happens, because it's all about consumer behavior. If consumers are out there still overspending, they're not going to do anything with the interest rates. If they do, they might even actually start putting them up again to say, calm your spending. Things are getting out of control with prices, right? So interest rates and lender regulations definitely factor into the market, and you should know what's going on there. So there's the economic factors. They play an important role in an agent's understanding of the market. Okay. If you guys are not watching the unemployment rate or the employment rate in your market, you should be. You really should be. Okay. I had an agent on my real estate team that's no longer on my real estate team, but he wanted to go and sell a multifamily unit in Pictou, I think. It was either Pictou or New Glasgow. And I said, well, what do you know about Pictou or New Glasgow? He said, well, nothing, but it looks like a good property. It's whatever, 12 units, and it looks like it's cheap. I said, yeah, but what do you know about that marketplace? He didn't know anything. And so I said, you should not be selling a property outside your market, especially an income property. Why? Does anybody know Scott Pulp and Paper up there? It's the largest employer, and they shut down the mill. They had an effluent problem. They had to put in an effluent treatment plant. It went to the federal government because their effluent was leaching out into the ocean. That's a federal jurisdiction, right? When you study, what jurisdiction comes in play in real estate. Well, fisheries and oceans is a federal department. And so the effluent from that pulp and paper mill was being discharged out into the bay, and the local fishermen were up in arms about it, right? You can see why. And so the federal government gave the ultimatum to the pulp and paper mill, the company that owned it, and said, you need to upgrade your effluent treatment plant before it's being able to discharge. And they said, well, it's too expensive. And the federal government said, well, we can't help that. It needs to be done. And there was an impasse. So they closed down the mill. And that put a lot of people out of work. Same thing with the coal mines industry. The forestry industry. People went to emails instead of snail mail, right? And so that's putting people out of work. Manufacturers, after the subprime market collapsed, a lot of lenders stopped lending on the automotive industry, stopped lending on cars, because one of the biggest defaults was people stopped paying their car loans. They were repossessing cars like crazy. So they were laying people off in Windsor, Ontario by the tens of thousands in the automotive industry. What do you think happened to the Windsor market? Were prices going up or going down? Probably a lot of houses for sale, and the prices were going down and down and down because nobody was moving there because the unemployment rate was so high, right? But you have to watch things like that, the economic factors at work, workers that are entering or exiting the workforce. And when I got into the real estate business, it was perfect timing for me, 96, because I was able to learn my job for 2 years before our market took off. Why did our market in Nova Scotia take off in 1998? Does anybody know?
Was that the shipbuilding?
Not in 98.
Something to do with fisheries, maybe? Fisheries and ocean?
Nope. Oil and gas.
Ah,
Sable Island project took off 1998. They started doing major exploration because I don't know who it was, Total or Shell Canada. One of those companies went in and was like, whoa, we just hit the payload of oil and gas offshore Nova Scotia. And whoom, we had oil executives from all over the world coming to Nova Scotia with big, big salaries. So for 1 decade, from 98 to 2008, just in after the subprime market, that stalled everything in 98. But in 1998 to 2008, I meant to say, it stalled in 2008. And so that's all these workers were entering into the workforce with big paying jobs. First time that we in Nova Scotia, specifically the Halifax area, saw multiple offer situations. We heard about it in Ontario and we're like, that's crazy. Listing your price low and intentionally to get a higher price, that will never work here. But it came in 1998. right? I remember a property, Joe Ritchie from Royal LePage, when I worked and started my my industry or my business in 96. In 1998, Jill listed a place on Swain Street in the middle of Halifax, in the west end of Halifax, and it sold for like 269,000, where the average price was like 180 or 200,000. And we all just kind of braced ourselves and said, "What just happened there?" Right? That was the standout moment for me in my real estate career, to see the forever changing market landscape in Nova Scotia, and specifically Halifax. Okay. So what is the growth rate in your community? Suzette, Jason, tell me about your growth rates in your community before the pandemic. Were they growing or shrinking? Because you're both in very rural communities, are you not?
Growing.
So yours was growing down in, are you in Camoville?
Yeah, Cummelville, Metagan, Sonyaville, Weymouth.
Yeah. Okay, so pre-pandemic, you felt that your community was growing in population?
Yeah, it's always been growing.
Okay. Anybody from the Eastern Shore all the way up to Sheet Harbor? Anybody up that way that's on tonight? I'm going to tell you something. I was up in Sheet Harbor on Sunday, and it's still a very desolate place. There's houses that are abandoned and boarded up. Why? Because the growth of that community is in the deficit. It's a negative growth. It's not growing at all. The elderly people are leaving that aged community, either dying or coming to Halifax to be part of a nursing care facility or hospitalizations. And so the real estate market in Area 35, our MLS district Area 35, is starting to suffer because it is a negative growth rate. They're losing more people that are moving into that community. Okay, so that's what's happening up in Area 35. So if you're not in tune with that, you should be, if that's your area that you work in. Okay, has the government made any changes to rules, regulations that might affect the housing market? So we've already talked about that. Yeah, somebody had a question?
Yes, Chad, where would you get that information?
I see it. Like I just see it, but you can go to Stats Canada. Okay. Stats Canada right now. And the question is, you know, I'm looking at it, and no offense to anybody who's immigrated to Canada recently. Okay. No offense to anybody that's listening in. But I'm going to tell you something. Everybody claims the government made a big mistake by flooding Canada with new to Canada immigrants because there was no place to house them. That is an issue. It's not a secret. Everybody's a little frustrated, not by having immigrants. We welcome them and embrace them. Problem is, we don't have places for them. It's created a housing shortage for us. And because the inflation went out of control, we don't have the infrastructures to support the sewers, the water, the traffic, the healthcare, all of these things, right? Because the government mandated we are going to double the population of Nova Scotia. So the government,
I think there's a
Yep.
there's a broader issue there though as well. We've got immigrants coming in that are doctors and architects and lawyers that the
Yep.
government will not license because they can't afford to take the test. Yet we've got a doctor shortage, so that's a whole different ballpark.
yeah. So again,
You know
it
what I
all
mean?
goes back to the government decisions that they make, the changes, the mandates,
Right.
the directive that they put in. I mean, it's a whole kettle of
Right.
worms that we're dealing with, but it comes down to
Right.
when the government does something, how does that affect your ability to
Absolutely.
sit down and communicate these things? Are these changes that the government's doing going to affect your ability to
Right.
buy and sell?
Yes. Yeah. If you're going to bring these people here, number one, have a house, but number two, let them do the job they're trained to do, which
True.
will improve the economy. Like I'm in Truro, and our Truro has been growing at a steady rate since 2011, but
Right.
that is one of our issues is housing. And every house showing that I have done is technically, most of them are listed as single family home, but they're being used as a multi-unit apartment.
Mhm.
So,
Oh,
you
they
know,
are.
and these
Yeah.
people that are in there don't have leases
Yep.
because they're renting it to family or friends, or, you know, Christina said, well, you couldn't have picked more difficult homes to try and sell. She said, because there's no leases and now we've got issues,
Yeah,
you know, but
absolutely. Yeah.
that's
How-
what all the houses here that I'm running into are, right? I've
Yep.
got two buyers and both want homes that have no leases, but two groups of tenants.
Yeah. And so again, the tenancy board is what they consider it's like the real estate commission. They're an independent non-government entity that oversee the Tenancy Act, right? That's what the tenancy board is there for. And so they made they put into place some changes, and that had a ripple effect through the real estate market. All right. And so we can't spend a lot of time on all this, but those are things that you have to know your market, right? You have to be in tune with your market, because when a client needs your support in making a decision, these are things that you have to bring to the table. Okay, we have an aged population in Nova Scotia, so where do we get the money to finance them? Okay, so we bring in a lot of immigration. You're coming to Canada and you're bringing, you know, $250,000 annually for every age of child or age of majority. You can bring $250,000 out of India to Canada. Whoa, great. Let's sell some more passports and bring that money in, because we need more skilled laborers. We need to fill some of those voids, like you're saying, Jane. We need people in the labor force, because we can't support elderly people, because Nova Scotia has a lot of them, with the money that we're currently bringing in. We need more tax
Right.
base. We need more people coming in with
And-
more money and things like that. And so
We're
that's
fortunate
where-
that we're part of, you know, that, as you know, the government announced last week, they're cutting back on immigrants and, you know,
Yeah.
employers because
For
of
now.
the
For
abuse.
now.
Yes, most of Truro is exempt from that because the people that bring up are for farming.
Yep.
So, you know, it's Millen
Migrant-
Farms and Ballamore and
workers,
all
yep.
those. So
Yeah.
we're exempt, so we will continue to get that growth as well here.
Yeah.
It's
and
just
so
like you said, where do you put the people? We're short about 1,000 apartment units. They're building in the next few months. We should have another 500 apartment buildings in Truro, or
Yeah.
not buildings, units.
yeah, so I get this around. If I have any investor clients that say, where should I buy? I say, go to Churro. Get ahead.
Perfect. Send them to me.
Yes, there you go, Jane. But I say, you know, go to Churro, because you're going to get ahead of the curve. It's just by default, it's growing that way. The city is growing that way.
Yep.
You're not going to make a fortune in 5 years, but in 10 years, you're going to be happy you did. Right. So,
Right.
all right. So we're going to move on. Important other factors to investigate. Okay. These are community amenities. If you don't know that there's going to be, like, I listed a house out in Lakeside, and we knew that there was a new community center within walking distance that was being built across kind of across the street from the road that this listing was on. Right? There's a beach down the road. Right? It could be anything. But in this case, nearby shops, restaurants, health facilities is becoming more important for the aging population, and neighborhood attractions, right? Real estate developments, I would say, right now, more important than most of those. Where are the real estate developments to house seniors when I sell out of my 2-story home, my 4 bedrooms, 2-story? Where am I going to go? Right? Well, there's new housing, and you know what? Great news. The grocery store is nearby, because I know my mom, she lives at the grocery store. That's kind of a pastime for her. She loves to cook. She goes to the grocery store and she spends 2 or 3 hours crawling the aisles, looking at the deals and the food, and brings them home and cooks a good meal for my dad. But they also want to be close to health facilities, right? But it could be anything. It could be kids. Okay. Are there daycares in this neighborhood or not? Are there really good schools here? Right? Do we have a brand new school, or do we have one that's ready to be torn down and there's going to be interruptions? Or are there classroom modules sitting in the parking lot? Like, what about that? How does that affect people's decisions to move into this particular neighborhood? Okay. Build your expertise. It says become the real estate expert of choice. And again, I go back to Jerry and Annette, because they have such a stronghold on the market out in Fall River. They are the real estate experts of choice, and they have been for a very long time. Okay, so the more that you educate yourself, the more that you can convey your knowledge, your experience, the stats and things, the more, and how to articulate that and convey it to your clients or the marketplace, the more business you're going to be able to do, the more that they see you as that real estate professional and that go-to resource in real estate. Okay.
Again, Chad, where would you get that information? Like the municipal, like a planning strategy, or just
So
kind of?
yeah. So part of what I talk about with my team and the people that I mentor and people that I can influence, in this case, keep in touch with every source that you can, right? So my habit, get up in the morning, check my command pipeline, kind of get fresh in my mind, who's doing what right now in my command pipeline, get familiar with using command, by the way, because it's important. It's going to be the nucleus, why they call it the command center in command. It's the nucleus of running your business. So for me, I look at my pipeline, I was like, okay, what's going on today? What are my tasks? Who am I cultivating? Who am I, booking appointments with, and when are they? And, what kind of activity have I got going on? Have I got some closings coming up? And what am I going to do with my database of people to reach out to them and keep in touch? So I do that. I have my coffee, I stare at the lake for a minute, and I go and I sit down at command with my cup of coffee, and I get an idea. I start checking in mentally for my business day, and then I go to All Nova Scotia. Why do I go to All Nova Scotia? Because I have found All Nova Scotia an invaluable resource in my real estate business. I have 3 accounts in All Nova Scotia, and my team has access to it. I have access to it, and I've got 2 accounts. Both have 6 member subscribers in it. Why? Because it's important for my team to understand what's going on in the markets. There's a political section, there's a business section, and they tie together. They all affect the market. And I go to All Nova Scotia constantly, and they're talking about different things. Who's who in development? What's going on? They interview different real estate agents, different real estate brokers. What's going on in real estate? Everybody wants to know what's going on in real estate in the housing market. What are they doing? What are planned upcoming discussions in council, right? What's the mayor doing? What's the council doing? What's the directive from city planning? So that's a resource. CMHC is a huge resource. Go to the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation website. They got a ton of it. Statistics Canada, specifically look at Nova Scotia. What's happening? Be in tune. Now, for years, I've been trying to find somebody to help me join my team and help me develop a senior transition program, because we have such an aging population, and I'm dealing with it every day. I'm dealing with it right now. I've got a lady who's been retired I helped her to sell a house in 2014. She's calling me back. Chad, my health has changed. I'm by myself. I've got this big house. I'm overwhelmed. So I sent out a guy that I knew. He was cleaning our house. I said, Raul, you have on a business card that you have cleaning services, but you also do other services for people. I've got a lady in need. She has boxes that need to be moved. She needs to have things sorted, to give away, to put in the garbage, or to take with. Are you interested in doing that type of work? And I put him in touch with her, because she's a senior that can't do this kind of thing and is overwhelmed by this house. I am running into this stuff every day. Every day I'm running into people in need, because they're at a point in their lives where they need to move on. Their housing needs have changed because of their age, right? And so Statistics Nova Scotia will tell you that, or Statistics Canada. Go to that as a resource and see where are the populations, because they do census all the time, right? Where are the age populations? Definitely in the rural areas. When people live in the rural areas, I can tell you, ask somebody in a rural area, how long have you lived here? My whole life, right? I've been here for 70 years, 80 years. People come to the city for health, but work mostly. It's the young people that leave the country because there's hardly any work out there anymore. There's no forestry, the fishing's in dire straits, agriculture, they're bringing in migrant workers because they're not paying enough, all this kind of stuff. So we're like, I'm a young person and I want to start a life and start a family. I can't do this by picking blueberries. Sorry, it doesn't work. I got to go to the city and I have to get a skilled trade, or I have to apply myself at a higher wage. And they're leaving the older people behind in the country. And that's why you see different municipal districts amalgamating, because they can't afford, they don't have the budget to be able to run on their own and have all of these staff, right? They combine, they get to lay people off because now they reduce their municipal budgets, right? because they've now combined, and now they don't have two people doing the same job in different districts. They combine the districts. Now there's one person they have to pay instead of two to do the same job in those districts. And that's the reality of what's happening because they don't have the tax base, right? All right, so learn your market, learn your clientele, listen. That's a big thing. Listen, right? To their needs, to people who are talking about community events. Social media, great source. Great source. You know, you gotta put up with the bad with the good. But listening to individuals, there are some, you know, pretty vocal people on social media in your communities. Jump on there, see what they're having to say, because they are dealing with a lot of the local issues, right? If you want to know about a condominium corporation, go to somebody in the board of directors, go to the busybody in the building, knock on her door or his door and say, hey, what's going on in the building? And you'll get an earful. And now you'll know, you'll be up to date about what are the things going on. So you have to listen to the individuals. And they say, keep the headlines in context. Don't just look at the headline and make your decision. Don't go out saying, oh my God, the sky is falling, right? You can't do that. You just have to be more educated, dive into it, get into the details of what's happening in the market so that you can educate your clients to make that better decision. Okay. LORE, language of real estate. Okay. It all starts with the language of real estate. That's what that means. LORE, language of real estate. Okay. It's know your market, how your market's moving, and how to communicate this to the buyers and sellers that are out there. All right. Find your way of articulating things. Do not come from an alarmist point of view. Okay. I will say that right now. You're in sales. You have to come with it. You have to feel like you're ready to go on stage. You do. When you show up, you have to show up with energy. You have to become excited for them. You have to be invested and interested in them. You have to ask questions and then have the patience to sit and listen. Because if you don't, and you're doing the talking all the time, unfortunately, their needs are not going to be identified and met. So if it's all about you and how great you are and a superstar in real estate, you're not really listening to them and their needs. You really got to get down to it. Because I've heard people like, I don't know why my agent is showing me condos. I told her I don't want to live in a condo. I want to live in this area of town. And yet she keeps sending me listings and wants to show me condos. That's an agent that's just not listening, right? Okay. Notice changes over time in your personal business. Okay. Be in tune with your own business. If things aren't going well, step back, have perspective, lean on the company, Keller Williams, lean on the senior agents, lean on the productivity coach. I'm sitting here just kind of, I don't understand how I got to this place in my real estate career, but I missed something along the way. I'm not as busy as I want to be. I'm doing business and I'm chasing business that I don't really like to do, but I'm kind of forced to because I've got bills to meet. And so keep perspective on your business. I stepped back one time because I said to Laura, when we were, partners in business, now she took the team leader position 6 years ago. So, but at the time when we were working together, I scratched my head and I said, Laura, I see something dangerous in our business model. It just dawned on me. And so that's good because I was able to get perspective on the changes in my business. What was changing? I stopped focusing on first-time home buyers, and I was graduating with all my clients. Helped them buy their first home, and then they call me back, and I was getting busy because I was doing 2 transactions for every one client. Hey, Chad, it's so-and-so. You helped us buy our house, listen, we've outgrown our first house that you helped us to buy. We're talking about moving up to a bigger home. And so I did that with a lot of my clients. We were rolling, right? Two deals for every client, listing and selling them into a new one, listing and selling. And this was happening all year long for a number of years. Until I said, whoa, Laura, we did not have perspective. I'm seeing the end of the line here because now we've graduated with all these clients into that big executive home. This is their 3rd transaction that we've done with them, stepping up from first home to second home to the home, right? And that the home was probably a 10 to 15 year stay for them. The other ones, they were trading in that 5-year mark, 5 to 7 years. They moved on to the bigger home. But now we're in the 4-bedroom home or the 5-bedroom home, and that's where they were going to raise their kids from that point until they're done university. And then they're going to probably start scaling back. But there's going to be a 15-year window, a 10 to 15-year window where that's the end of the road with this source of business. I was like, we forgot about the first-time home buyers. The other thing too, is I mentioned that I do a lot of business based on referral and repeat business, right? You know, the lady I'm dealing with now, who's whatever, that's 14 years, that was 2014, 10 years ago, helped her to buy, now she's calling me back, right? But over 90% of the business I do is repeat and referral business. Richard Robbins from Richard Robbins International Coaching taught me at one point when I went to one of his seminars, there is more people that you don't know than you do know. So where is more of the business? With people you don't know or people you do know? Oh, there's an awful lot of people I don't know. A lot more people that I don't know than I do know. Good point. Are you doing business with people that you don't know? And for me, it was a no. All my business, 90% of the business I do is people that I know. That's repeat and referral business that I run my business from. Wow. So tell me a little bit more about how to capture business from people that I don't know, right? And that's when you're starting to buy into lead generation businesses. You're doing more open houses to meet more buyers to convert them because these are strangers and they become your buyer clients if you're effective at what you do and all those things. But notice the changes over time in your own personal business. Have perspective, sit back, assess your business, and go back and start making changes. I look at the Christmas tree effect. I love that. When you're up next to the Christmas tree and you're hanging ornaments, do you really have a perspective on what it really looks like? Or do you have to step back, have a look, and like, I got to move that up here and go down there? I look at my business the same way. Step back in, start making the changes, step back and said, hey, that looks pretty good, right? So know your business and notice your personal changes over time, okay? Learn your clientele. Who are your buyers? Who are your sellers? I had to do that. You should do that. My buyers and sellers. Well, my buyers are my sellers at one point. And better change that. I need new buyers, fresh blood into the pipeline. I need new first-time home buyers. So let's have some more first-time home buyer seminars. And let's change what's happening in this business model that we've got running because we don't have that fresh blood into our business. We don't have all these new first-time home buyers that now that we get to graduate those 3 levels with them. First home, second home, final home, back to, downsizing again. All right. Does the market benefit your clients? All right. Sometimes it's, young people, I need to get into the real estate market to start building my equity, right? So what type of market are you buying in? Know that, right? Do seniors really care that you invest in over, 5 to 7 years from now, you're going to have more equity in the house? Probably not. They're not interested in that anymore. They're going the other way, like I'm going into an apartment and I'm going to pay rent because life is easier there. And I've got all the money from my equity of my house already. But it's the person starting out that needs to build that equity. So you have to identify a market or a house that's better suited as an equity builder for them. Okay. So helping them decide. Does the market put your clients at risk? What kind of risk are we looking at, guys? When you sell somebody a property, tell me something. What kind of market can put your clients at risk?
Depends if you're working with buyers or sellers.
Yeah.
So if it's a seller's market, maybe a first-time buyer could end up being overstretched because they have to outbid other people. That could put them at risk. And if you're talking about buyers, for example, if they buy too high in a seller's market and the market collapses and they want to sell down the road, then they're not going to recoup their equity.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And so sometimes, and right now, there are situations where it's probably better to help somebody buy a duplex, a place with a basement apartment, right? Because the costs of everything are going up and the market that you're buying into is not going to slow down anytime soon. Maybe some of the issue is they bought at 2% mortgage rate, and now on renewal, the rate has gone up. Now they went all in to piggyback on your example, Mark. They paid more than they should have for the house because it was a seller's market at the height of the market, and that's when they bought in at a lower interest rate, and they could barely get in then. And now everything has gone up in price, and the interest rates are on renewal. So 2024, 2025, right? Because from the early pandemic, 2020, we were fast forwarding, we're getting onto the 5-year renewal mark. A lot of 4-year mortgages were sold. Okay, so now they're coming to renewal from 1.8%, 2%, 2.2%. We're staring 4.5% in the face. So over double the interest rate, over and above everything else that's more expensive. And so that is where your clients are at a bit of a risk. All right, look at other external factors. You sell somebody into this cozy little community, and then all of a sudden some industry pulls up and starts, developing in your backyard. Right, putting your clients at risk when you don't understand the market and not looking at the future, like what's going to happen to this area. And I say this all the time: when you do your market assessment, you have to look at the external factors, what's around it. And if there's a big area of vacant land, I have to know. Right, I might call my municipal councilor to say, hey, listen, is there any plan for this big piece of land that the government has? It says it's HRM land, but I want to know what's going there. Is it a sewage treatment plant? Is there going to be another school? Is there going to be a seniors? What's going back here? Are you going to sell it? And, or is it some developer going to put in some mega structure? Okay. So you should know, different areas of the market where your clients' investments might be at risk. Okay. Take the grassroots approach to people's, to people's insight on the market, right? Listen to people. And again, that goes back to like the social media side of things. Okay. Go to where the people are. That's where you get business, but that's also where you get information, right? Learn where your sphere gets their information. Be present and talk to and engage with them, right? That's why people, like grassroots means be interactive now. Don't let, the internet do all the work, right? Be interactive with people. And that's why you see people out on social media, they're a lot busier than some people who aren't, because they're interactive and they're offering opinions and they're offering advice. Like, hey, listen, if you guys are thinking about listing in this area, I just want to tell you, our market has changed. So if I throw out a market stat in my area and say, well, there's 6 months of inventory, so we have a fairly healthy market. If you're thinking of buying, today wouldn't be a bad time to get out in the market, because now you have choice and you have probably a good chance of getting a better price on the home you're looking at buying, because it is a balanced market. It's not a seller's market anymore. Call me so I can talk to you a little bit more about the advantages of buying in this marketplace right now, as opposed to 6 months ago or 8 months ago or a year ago, where you couldn't afford a house, it was getting out of reach, you were making offers and they weren't being accepted, whatever the case is, right? So learn about what people are saying in the market, the habits, the behaviors in the market, and engage with them, right? It says chat with them, but more importantly, listen to them, because you're doing more data analysis and collection, right? To be able to be a healthy resource for them, right, in real estate. Read past the headline. We talked about that. Knowing your numbers, all right? We talked about that. Utilizing the apps. Okay, so they're going in, and this feels like a bit of a KW pitch, right? Selling you to use command. Does anybody have the KW Command app on their phone or on their computer, but more so their app on their phone? Do you guys have it?
Yep.
Okay. So it's going to run. They're asking me to run through, and this is where we're going to be able to save a little bit of time. Okay. They're asking you, if you haven't already set it up, set it up. And they're talking about how to do it, right? And there's the instructions. Integrate command. I use this every day. This is where I go and I read my pipeline. This is the health score of your database. It talks all about, when you put in your contact information, is it complete, or do you just have a name? Do you have John Smith? Yeah, okay, but what about John Smith? You got a low health score. Well, John Smith and his telephone number. Okay, now you've just increased the health score. What are his phone number, his email address, and his home address? Whoa, now you're rocking. The higher the health score, the more effective you can at managing your database and actually being more effective reaching out with people. If you have the URL for their Facebook, it's in your command. right? If it's not, you've got a lower health score. If it is, now you have a way of contacting John Smith through social media, right? And getting information out and showing that you're the real estate professional. You've got your finger on the pulse of the market. You know what's going on. And here's some good information, John, in case you're thinking about investing, buying, or selling. Okay. So the Command app, you should all have that. If you don't have that uploaded on your phone, I'm going to just urge you to get a hold of one of the gals at the office or SLM Marketing. They're our support person now that Jessica Dortz is on maternity leave. She'll be back, I think, in December. And this was her job. She helped. This is agent services that helps, agent support services that helps in these moments. All right. I don't have the Command app and I'm not really that tech savvy. So can you help me get it all set up and functioning and let me, you know, kind of learn the basics for you? Get a hold of Scott's team at SLM and they'll help you get it all set up. And there's lots of videos too on how to effectively run Command if there are no in live training for it. Okay. So we're going to skip that because the KW app is good. This tells you how to do it. But get in touch with the admin and they will and then they'll help you work through it, get it set up, and start implementing Command in your everyday practice of real estate, because it is absolutely the most effective tool that I've seen in 28 years of real estate with all of the real estate companies I've been with. I've been with Laura LePage, Remax, Exit Realty, and now Keller Williams. And so this does it all for you. Right. And that's why I say there's no more bolt-ons. There's no more leaning on other companies for their service over there and this service over there and this service. And you're paying for all these individual service providers to help manage your business. It's all in one through Command now. All right. Now this is talking about, yeah.
Can you go back the screen? I just want to take a picture of that because it's not in our papers.
Okay. To get the KW app, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
You got it?
Yep.
Okay. So moving on, it's talking about establishing business on social media. Part of your success of business involves social media and other enrichments. All right. So these are the types of things. And this is stuff that productivity coaching talks to you about. How do you get your business? How do you stay in tune with your specific market? So my market is my database. But if I started like James doing some geographic farming and making sure that people know that I am the area specialist, Allison Godso from our office lives in my community. She's a guru at social media. She lives on that. I don't know how she spends so much time on it, but she's probably so effective and efficient on it. It seems like she spends an hour where she's probably spending 5 minutes, right? But she is branded this into her business. Like 10 posts a day that in your community. So if you're focused on your community, go in there and be seen and engage. Like everything. I shouldn't say everything, because if you don't like something, just kind of stay away. Don't comment. Don't engage in conflict or conflicting controversial areas of controversy. Don't start talking about the political debate down in the States last night. I would stay away from those things, right? Because that kind of can damage. Sometimes it can damage your image and it can damage your relationship with your community and your social in your sphere. Okay, so refrain from being too political on social media and your religious beliefs and all those kind of things. You can do it, your business, but a lot of times that starts controversy and you start polarizing people, you start segregating yourself from other people, which could be a good source of business for you. All right. But in theory, like 10 posts a day, write 5 comments a day. You're now just not liking, because that's anybody can just like. But when you take the time to actually comment on something in a positive way, reinforcing somebody's life, adding value to their life by saying, hey, listen, congratulations, little tip for you. If you just did this, I highly recommend that you get a hold of this guy because he can help you out. Right. So now you're congratulating them, commenting on them, celebrating with them, but adding a little bit of value besides that to like, I've got somebody that can help you, whatever, finish your project or celebrate your, if you just had a baby, I know somebody that is now ready to repurpose some baby clothes. They'll pass it along. I'll connect you guys. Congratulations again on your new baby boy or girl or twins, whatever. Right. So that's how you keep engaged. Or in your family, in your community Facebook pages, get in there and start offering some good constructive comments. Right. Hey, everybody. Spectacular news. There's going to be a new community center. They finally passed it through. Thank you so much for the committee that spearheaded all this and put all their blood, sweat, and tears as volunteers to help bring this to the community. And I'd like to take time to recognize these 5 people, right? Do that kind of stuff. Be engaged with your community, because at the end of the day, when you start creating a relationship with your community, then start bring some real estate tidbits of facts and things and going on. Hey guys, just heard that they just passed an 80 unit development down in our neighborhood. How does everybody feel about that? Now you're starting a dialogue, right? And then you can, you're starting to quarterback the conversation, and you could, it's your it's your story. You get the rights, your narrative now, because now you get to direct this conversation, and that's the time that you can show how great you are in the real estate world, and how in tune you are with how that's going to change the market in your area. Okay, and send one direct message a day. Hey Judy, I heard Bill wasn't feeling so well. Just want to reach out to say we're thinking about you, and I hope things turn out great. Keep me posted. Whatever. Okay, so the recap. Okay, this is the whole thing that we covered today. So that was the type of market you're in, how to identify the inventory in the market, interest rates and lender policy changes, how that affects your market, economic factors, other market factors, and then build your expertise in learning the market, learning the clientele, listening to what they say, listen to their needs and what's going on, and keep the headlines in context. That's just, don't just look at everything superficially, look into it and make sure you're not spreading news that is not, fake news, let's say, right? So that's the whole scope. That's the recap of getting in and being recognized as an area specialist. That is a really important thing if you want to break into any particular market. Okay. So does anybody have anything to add to that? Anything that anybody wants to discuss regarding any part of that section?
Do you have a secret account that we don't know about, Chad, on social media?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I'm not a social media guy.
You certainly sound pretty knowledgeable.
Well, do as I say, not as I do. I intentionally refrain from social media. One, I got a lot of things going on in my world, right? I chose to give back, so I have a lot of mentees. I do training like this because I enjoy spending time with you guys and helping you if I can enrich your career and boost you to another level, or whatever the case might be, and fortify your business. I'm so happy to do that and spend time with you guys to help you to do that. I don't like a lot of things on social media. I don't like a vanity show. I don't like a look at me show. I don't like a lot of the things that people post that say their life is so great, but behind the scenes, their life is crumbling, and I feel bad for them. And it's an emotional ride going through social media that I don't like to participate in. And that's just a personal choice. If I stuck to business, I could do it, but it's one more thing I have to manage, right? For me, I'm not an administrator. I hire administrators to do my work for me. So you'll get into the leverage series, guys. The sooner the better, right? How to not do the work that doesn't pay you back, right? Doing your own administrative work. It's $20 to $25 an hour work. And we're making hundreds of dollars an hour to thousands of dollars an hour when we go out and get and do our jobs, and which is to get signatures, sell properties, and negotiate contracts. Okay. You get paid hundreds to thousands of dollars. So why sit down and do a $20 to $25 an hour job? So learn effectively how to leverage out. I used to take my own pictures. I used to put up my own real estate signs, all that stuff. I don't do any of that anymore. I leverage everything out, and the amount of time, and I'm like, Jesus, I'm supposed to be filling my time with lead generation. How do I fill all this time now that I've leveraged everything out? I've got like 3 times as much, I have 3 times as much free time in my day. Like, this is the time I'm supposed to be bringing my business to a higher and bigger level, right? But I don't like social media for that. I am hiring SLM to come in, and I'm going to start off the basic bronze package. They have bronze, silver, and gold package, and they will be a support person for me and my team. And I'm a little, 3 days late in getting a hold of them, but they are going to help support my team and myself, and they are going to administrate my social media site. So you'll probably start seeing more of me and my team, but it's going to be SLM managing it all in the background. We'll talk about content, and they're going to put it together and share it with everybody, right? So that's where I am on social media. All right, so we're halfway through. Session 4, define your value. This is the place that I like best. And I'm gonna go through this a little faster, because where you become the market specialist, right? Being that go-to person, the recognized market specialist in your area or your field, whether it be like Andrew is condos and I could be foreclosures and Susan is new construction and so on, right? In a specific area, right? You're an area geographic specialist. All that leads to building your value, right? And this is segue into session 4. Define your value. Okay. What makes you so special that I should be working with you? Right. Part of building your value is your knowledge in your real estate market. Okay. So if you're not building your value, you're probably not getting as much business out of your real estate market as you should, and you may not be winning as many contracts as you should. All right. And there's different ways and there's different strategies. There's different challenges in defining your value. Right. Mark, I appreciate you've been very interactive. Tell me something. What is one challenge that you have in defining your own value to win business?
Well, I think at this particular moment, it's the lack of confidence and experience, but I'm sure with time that will come. But that could be both a good thing and a bad thing because, you know, while I don't have experience, obviously I can leverage the fact that I'm with KW. I can, you know, leverage the fact that you're my mentor. That brings me a lot of experience and confidence as well. But
Right.
I think that's the biggest problem for me right now.
Yes. Beautiful answer. That is one of the best answers I've heard, because if you guys were paying attention to exactly what Mark was saying, he was identifying with the challenges, but he also implemented those fortifying solutions. So if he was sitting in front of a client, and if I was the client saying, Mark, like, why should I deal with you specifically? Right? Aren't you a new agent? Because that is one of the biggest complaints or challenges that people bring to me as a new agent. How am I going to go and compete with experienced agents when I'm new? I don't have the experience. I don't. So I always say, play to your strengths. And you just answered that question perfectly, Mark, whereby, yes, you identified with those challenges of, no, I don't have the years of experience that you do, but I don't have, you know, the skill level or whatever. But then you kind of implement the solution or the workaround to that, to alleviate the concerns that client might have, and saying, but look at this, right? And in this particular session, it does bring up how you play to your strengths and provide value to your clients, right? Because you are plugged into I think one of the largest, well, the largest real estate company in the world. And that's, you know, you've got the resources behind you of over 200,000 agents. Not just that, play to your strengths when it comes to what Mark is saying. You've got Keller Williams specifically, you've got a productivity coach specifically, you've got a mentor, right? If your mentor has years of experience, great. You bring that to the table. So when Mark sits at the table, or James, I think you're the only two mentors that I have here on the line, but you get to sit at the table and say, well, I've got 28 years of experience behind me. Right? Because every buyer designated brokerage agreement, every seller designated brokerage agreement has my name on it. And I work through the whole process with you as your mentor, right? So you're bringing 28 years of experience to the table, right? But play to your strength, exactly like Mark had articulated so well. All right. So before, I better stop for a quick minute. You know, I don't know. I can't see you guys because I'm sharing my screen and I'm going from slideshow to slideshow. Let's take a 2-minute break, guys. I know I'm gonna speed this up because we got about an hour left. I don't know. I think it's 3 hours that they give me to get through this. We're gonna get through this before noon. Okay. And so I'm gonna speed it up through this when it comes to the value proposition. But I don't know you guys, if you've turned your screen off and you run to the bathroom. I haven't had that opportunity. So I'm going to go and freshen up my coffee. I'm going to run to the washroom before we start getting into to this next session, number 4, define your value. So let's take a 2-minute break and we'll be back in 2 minutes to continue on. Okay, I am back, folks. Sharing my screen again. All right. Okay, I'm just making sure that I have my audio and video on, and which I do. I'll reshare my screen, folks. All right. Okay, so now we're going to get started to move on, because again, we're got this this part of the course we'll probably get through fairly quickly. So we'll take the next 45 minutes to be able to get through the course, maybe do a 15-minute wrap up of what we dealt with today. You know, I'd like to so this is going to be maybe a little bit more interactive, so I'd like to have a little bit more involvement and participation from you guys. Because it helps that you don't hear my voice droning on, you know, for you know, another hour. It's already been 2. And so one of the things that is so kind of, if you look at the pre-licensing course, you know, we talk about the relationship between the Nova Scotia Real Estate Commission and the Nova Scotia Real Estate Association. And it's all about education, right? I shouldn't say it's all about. There's one of the 4 points that tie the two entities together is education, right? So the commission sets its curriculum and the learning outcomes, right? So in this particular course, the curriculum is establishing your value proposition. And the learning outcome is to be able to understand and articulate your value proposition to your clients. What separates you from your competition? Why should I use you as the real estate expert to help me through probably the largest transaction I've ever done in my life? Why choose you? What do you bring to the table to help support and service my needs as a buyer or seller? So let me ask you all this. Okay, so by the way, at the end of this, you should know how to start thinking about articulating your value to your clients, and start adopting all of the things that make you that real estate agent of choice. Okay, what is going to make you that real estate agent of choice? Now, we already talked about, you know, being the market expert, knowing your market, knowing your clientele, knowing your statistics, and all of those things, being in tune, and to be able to discuss those things in some further details with your clients about how it will impact them or the real estate market, or, you know, their buying or selling process. At the end of this, there's going to be an exercise where you will be asked to design your value proposition. So that if I say, you know, hey, Jane, tell me, you're in real estate. What do you bring to the table? Why should I choose you? I mean, I'm looking at interviewing 3 agents here. Why should I hire you? Okay, I'm not putting you on the spot to give me that answer right now, but that's where you are going to have to answer that specific question. You all are. I do. Right? Why should I hire you? What's your value proposition? And so for me, I don't like the elevator speech. Right? And the elevator speech is you get on the ground level and you have to have somebody understand what you do by the time you get to the 6th floor. Right? That's how you're supposed to, your 30-second, whatever it is, elevator speech. How do you get somebody to understand that you are a professional in what you do and you're probably the best choice for them if they want to buy or sell a property? Okay? Or refer you to somebody who's buying or selling a property with real estate needs. And so you have to be able to explain to them very quickly about you and the value you bring as a real estate professional. And that's the purpose of this particular unit. All right. By the way, have you guys heard of the value squared session that Gary Keller, Jay Papasan, and Jason Abram? Have you guys heard about the value squared session that they put around articulating and understanding your value as a real estate agent? Okay. If you haven't, and you haven't sat through that session, it has been recorded. Absolutely. They did it 4 times. I took it twice in person and it's been recorded. So I do plan on revisiting it at some point when I put it into my schedule to say, this is what I'm doing today. For those 2 or 2.5 hours, it is absolutely time well spent because they show you the importance of articulating your value now more than ever. Okay, because there was a big lawsuit that came about and now the sellers are not, and sellers brokerages are not offering commissions to buyers brokerage anymore. They're not publicly saying. So when you go to the Paragon system, you can go and say, how much is the seller offering as commission? Down in the States, they're not doing that anymore. You have to charge your commission to your buyer or negotiate your buyer's commission in with the seller and you try and get the seller to pay the commission. If buyers are going to have to start paying you, then they're going to be more concerned about how well you service them. Because when you get a free ride, you don't really push an agent, right? Well, you're not paying for it, the seller is. So, I guess you get what you pay for. I don't know. I never take that attitude, but buyers are going to be like, okay. So if I have to pay you out of my own pocket, they're a little bit more in tune with what you're going to do for them, right? And so you need to be able to sit with a buyer and go over the buyer process and articulate your value and how you're going to support them. You're going to be the best support and the best real estate expert, that real estate expert of choice for them based on your value proposition. Okay. So what does your value proposition look like? It is a unique, memorable, and persuasive statement that expresses the true value of working with you as the real estate expert. Okay. So that's why they've highlighted this. It's unique. Because if it's the same as everybody else, well, then you're the same as everybody else. If it's memorable, it means it's impactful. It has meat on the bone here. And it's persuasive. Like, yeah, you're drawing me in because I like what you're saying here, right? It addresses specific and special needs of the buyers or sellers in your marketplace, okay? Special needs, like me. I need to find somebody to help me develop a senior transition program for my team. I don't have time to build it. I don't have time to execute it. So that's why I'm looking for the help. But it is a call it is an answer to the call for help from seniors. That's the way I look at it. We are here to come and help you with these specific needs as a senior or first-time home buyers. Hey, I want to do a first-time home buyer seminar or a first-time seller seminar, right? So it addresses specific needs, right? If you're a specialist in a specific area or you want to talk to a specific demographic or area of the market, you need to have that in your value proposition to them to draw them in. That unique, memorable, and persuasive statement that draws those people to contact you to say, yes, I want to know more about you and what you do, okay? It states what you will do for them, right? To earn the commission that they're going to pay you, right? And I tell people this all the time when it comes to the commissions. No wonder people don't want to pay you. No wonder they don't want to pay me. Until you have the opportunity to sit down and articulate your value to them, they don't know what they're getting. Right? If you don't tell them all the services that you provide, if you don't prepare them for this big process they're about to go through, whether it was listing their house or selling their house, if they don't know what you are going to do for them, how are they going to gauge how much they should pay you? So that is why you build your value proposition, to be able to articulate that well, as effectively as you can, so that when you say, and furthermore, in order to help you through this process, we charge X amount of dollars, right? For me, if I have my rule, if I'm listing a house, it's 5%. But I have to go through my whole seller presentation and then tell them specifically after that, they know everything that I'm going to do for them. And you should be able to articulate that too. And then tell them the cost of that service. And by the time you deliver that cost of service, they understand they're getting good value for the money you're charging. Okay. So I do 2.5% and 5%, 2.5% to a buyer. Like I wrote an offer last night, 9 o'clock, put an offer in. Don't know. I've got texts I didn't check. Haven't heard back yet. Don't know if my offer was accepted, but in my offer, I put that the seller agrees to pay the buyer's brokerage a commission of 2.5% on the closing of the property. Because they were offering 2%. And so my buyer designated brokerage agreement is for 2.5%. Right? And so now I get to negotiate with the seller, because the buyer saying, yes, I'll pay you the 2.5%. The seller's paying 2%. And if you can't get it up to 2.5%, I guess I'm on the hook for the other 0.5%, but I'd really like to see if the seller can build that into the transaction and the seller can pay for it. Right? So at the end of the day, my buyer had no problems paying for the extra 2.5% and building that into my service, because they know, my buyers know exactly what I'm going to do for them for that money. And they're not having any problem with it. Right? So long as you show them the value and they feel like that value is worth it to them, they will pay it, and they're not going to argue with it. Okay. The other thing too is your value proposition. It holds you accountable. Okay. Jim Murphy, when I got into the real estate business, Jim is at Royal LePage today. He went to Prudential, and he worked with Prudential for most of his real estate career until they got bought out by Royal LePage, and then he was assumed as an agent into Royal LePage. But Jim Murphy was my pre-licensing instructor. And this statement really resonates with me, and it makes me think of Jim back in 1996. Because Jim had an influence in my business for all of this time when he said, do what you say you're going to do. You don't have to do more, but never do less. Do what you say you're going to do. You don't have to do more, but never do less. And that's this value proposition that you put out. Like, this is me and this is what you get. That holds you accountable when you make that statement to a client, because if you do not perform the way you say you're going to perform, you have not met the expectation that you set with that consumer. All right. So I thank Jim to this day that he had that influence my entire real estate career. And I know when I haven't put my best foot forward, I know it. I can feel it. I'm sure my clients can feel it, and it will ultimately impact the results in most cases. Right? If you don't do everything that you promise to do, it's probably not going to yield the best results you can get for your clients. Right? There's a little side note here from Ann De Silva saying that we should add here that all marketing needs to be approved by a broker to ensure compliance, including statements of performance. Okay, so I want to show that to you guys, because don't oversell yourself, because that's a tough thing, right? And you also have to make sure that what you say, I'm the best real estate there is in all of Nova Scotia. You cannot make that claim as your value proposition. Be careful of that. All right, because if you have a little asterisk in the little the small print or the fine print says, according to my mother, that I'm the best real estate agent in all of Nova Scotia, right? You have to so when you take your advertising course, when it comes to advertising compliance, lean on the broker team before you make statements, right? Pass the marketing off to them to say, hey, listen, Because if you look on social media, I mean, it's a slash and burn show there with the real estate commission, because there's so many people that you go on, you know, like you don't even know what real estate company these people work for, right? They've got this claim to fame out there, and there's like, well, who do you even work for? Are you with KW? Are you with Royal LePage? Are you with Remax? Are you with a small brokerage somewhere? Like, who are you and who do you work for? But you shouldn't be advertising real estate unless you are advertising your brokerage and your own contact information, right? Your own name, right? Your identity. Who are we dealing with here, right? And so that's why Anne is asking, hey, if you're going to make these value propositions, run it by the broker team before you go announcing all of these things, right? In your value proposition, okay, you got to start talking about the difference between incentives and inducements, okay? Because I know there's real estate agents out there right now in the real estate market that are trying to incentivize people to come and work with them. There are rules around incentives, and that's probably what Anne means here. Before you make a statement to say, if you work with me, I'm going to buy you a trip for 2 to the Caribbean, all inclusive. You cannot offer that unless that is endorsed by the broker and the whole brokerage is offering the same thing to their clients. So that might be part of your value proposition. Well, how do I compete with other people? Well, maybe if I, do something extra for my clients, then they'll work with me instead of them. So I want them to work with me. So you get a cruise for 2, up to $3,500 in value, right? And then people come and work with you because of it. Well, it's not that straightforward. If you have that as your value proposition, I do a great job for you, period. I do anything and everything to help you achieve the highest and best results, but I'm not buying your business. Like, I'll buy you appliances, I'll buy you a trip for 2 to an all-inclusive resort. All that kind of stuff is buying business, and I don't do that personally. I show my value by my experience and putting my expertise to work. I don't buy clients, and hopefully my clients appreciate that, they recognize that, and that's why they work with me, not because I'm going to buy them a new fridge and stove or washer dryer. Okay, so be careful what you put in your value proposition, and when you construct it, run that and any other marketing by the brokerage team. Okay, top agents can easily explain what services they provide to anyone who hires them, and that's a Gary Keller statement right out of the real estate millionaire book, or the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. And so it's true. There's different ways, and I find it hard to articulate my own value because I'm like, well, I guess it all depends on whom I'm talking to and what I'm dealing with, right? My language will change, right? My language will change if I'm talking to seniors versus new first-time home buyers versus the person that's selling their house and moving it up to the 4-bedroom home. Like, what is my value proposition? And I guess it's specific to the people that I'm working with. If I broadcast my general value, right, and put it out on social media, if you're looking for a real estate agent okay, you're broadcasting it to the general populace, then you can include the biggest portions or the most effective things that you can implement in your value proposition. What is it that you are standoutish and makes you the best real estate practitioner for me to deal with, right? So think about your value proposition, but it can change from time to time, in my opinion, based on the situation, okay? The benefits of a value proposition and putting together what you bring to the table helps your clients understand your value and your expertise, right? Value. Let's stop there for a second and talk about value. What is valuable to a consumer about a real estate agent? I need some because, again, I just get tired of my own voice droning on here. So pick it up, have another shot of espresso or whatever, and bring some energy back into this by telling me, what do you guys feel would be valuable to a client? I want to hear like 10 things.
Your
I think
referrals for other professionals that are needed for the job, like lawyers, home inspectors, insurance salespeople, all the professionals needed to make the transaction run smooth. And you've gone through that with several clients, so you know who's going to meet their needs, and you can refer them, and they love that.
Absolutely. You don't know how important it is to have a team of service providers around your business that you could refer to your clients. It is critical, and that is part of your value. James Langell, you're still with us?
Yeah, I'm here, Chad.
Talk about some of the appointments that you booked within your first 2 to 3 months of being in the real estate business. Who'd you book the appointments with?
Who did I book the? Oh, I see where you're going with this. I was creating relationships with these vendors that Karina was just talking about. Insurance people, mortgage people, lawyers. That was a big part of my first couple of months when I was ramping up, was meeting with as many of these vendors as I could to figure out who I would work well with, or who I thought I would work well with and be comfortable referring clients to.
Right. And so what was important about when you chose them? What was important when you were like, I can refer this person to my client now? What about that service provider gave you that comforting feeling about why you would refer them?
Well, based on the way that I want to run my business and the way that I do run my business, the values that I have with my business, I like my values to align with the people that I refer. For example, being very service-minded, or service-focused is something really important to me. And somebody who appreciates the what a serious transaction this is for people in their lives, and treats them more than just a number.
100%. 100%. Guys, the way James just explains that makes me feel good and want to work with him. Why? Because I immediately feel a sense from James that he is my fiduciary. He's the guy that's going to act in my best interest, because what he just told me was he qualified these service providers for me. Not for him, that there's that benefit is fringe benefit that he gets to do a great business and surround himself with great people. And I get to surround myself with great people that are going to support you through your real estate process, whether it's buying or selling. And what he just articulated was his sense of belief, which I love the fact that he used that word. We align in our values, we align in our belief systems, and basically he's showing who he is as a person, and that he's doing all this for your benefit as the consumer. And I want to put you in good hands. And I am going to get you the greatest, best real estate lawyer, property inspectors, like Karina is saying, all these service providers. I built this team around me and my business to help you. You need a lawyer, I got a great one for you. You need, and the indemnity clause on the contracts is the one that prompts me to talk about the service providers that I put people around. Because the indemnity, sorry, not the indemnity clause, sources of other remuneration, right? You can get kickbacks from other service providers. And I tell people I never accept that. I never accept that, not ever in my career. I don't accept other remuneration kickbacks from banks or lawyers or anybody else. I'll let them take me for lunch from time to time, but that's the extent of it, right? And the reason why I don't is because I want to make sure that you know I am putting this service professional in front of you because they are the best at what they do. I have vetted all the bad ones, and I put the best ones in your path because they are the best at what they do for you, right? And so when you build a strong team of service providers, and I had this conversation with somebody on my team yesterday's Tuesday, and we had to talk about this because I said, you are working with one of my clients and you're working on my team. And the feedback that I got from the buyer was, I didn't appreciate the inspection company. I'm not comfortable with the inspection results. I feel like I should be terminating. I need you to come and talk to me and console me to say I'm doing the right thing because I'm ready to walk. We firmed up the deal yesterday and they are like almost crying. They're so happy, right? Feel good moment for us as a team. And it was a victory because it was a very complex and challenging transaction that we got through. The problem is, I do not endorse, personally, I've never worked with this real estate company that my agent referred, or not real estate company, inspection company that my agent referred. And it didn't go great. She felt like she was already on edge because you know that consumers are a little emotional, right? She was already a little on edge. And everything came back with a high emphasis of negativity, alarming this. Everything that came back was an alarming way of communicating. Oh, this is wrong. They should never have done this. I don't know why they're all that kind of stuff through the whole inspection. And she's like rattled by the time she's leaving. She calls me and said, Chad, I'm freaked out here. Right. So I met her and we calmed down the emotions. We got that out of the way. And we really talked about the issues. And she was like, now Steve and I feel really good about this. Like, we're not making a horrible decision anymore. But it was just the whole approach and some of the things that happened throughout the inspection. That's when I had to come back and say, we do not recommend these people anymore. Not until we sit down and we further qualify them, we give them the feedback on this, and they pledge that they will fix this for our clients and not do it again. Otherwise, they never get another one of our referrals. And the lawyer was the same. We referred a lawyer, and the lawyer did not confirm receipt of the documentation under the lawyer review and all that kind of stuff. Sent them to, and there was just zero communication to say, I've got it, I'll review it, and I'll get back to you on the lawyer review clause well before the due date. Didn't get any of that. So they reach out and say, hey, listen, you got to communicate better to us because we cannot keep guessing. Okay, we just can't keep guessing. So this is the importance, right? It all comes down to packaging the value when it comes to service providers. What about your experience and knowledge, right?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
And this may be a totally stupid question, but I'm at the point with a buyer that she's thinking about putting an offer in. So when it comes to a lawyer, I understand that I am the one that forwards all the documents to the lawyer,
Don't have
but
to.
she is the one that has first contact with the lawyer. Yes.
Right. So different set of training on the process of dealing with buyers and sellers, but right, this is your buyers and sellers process. It's their responsibility, not ours, right? You have to make that clear, set the expectation in your process. I mean, your value proposition in your service is, I'm going to take a little bit of the load off you and I'll do some of the lifting. Okay. Out of courtesy, we'll make sure that your lawyer gets all of the paperwork they need. But it is ultimately your consumers or your clients' responsibility to get the paperwork to their lawyer, to their mortgage specialist, to the insurer, whomever. Ultimately up to your client. But if you want to do some of that heavy lifting with them, take a little bit of the load, out of courtesy, and a lot of agents do this because it increases their service value proposition. We'll take a little bit of the burden off you. We'll look after that. Don't worry about it. You've got other things to think about and deal with. Okay. So you can do that. All right.
Okay.
Just make sure that if you're taking on responsibilities for your sellers, it gets done properly. Because if you drop the ball, you miss this and forget to send them the amendment, and the lawyer's like, I'm ready to close and I don't have a copy of this amendment yet. And they look at you and say, well, why didn't you send that? Now this is going to delay closing, and it's going to change our financing. We got to go back for pre-approval or re-approval. So be careful of what you take on, because sometimes it can come back to bite you, even though you think you're doing a good thing, right?
Okay.
Going over and above. Sometimes it's like, oh no, I'll deal with that. And then something goes wrong, and guess what? You're liable for it now. You took responsibility and you did something outside of what you were expected to do or should have done, because you're trying to show how great of a service provider you are and what great value you're offering to your clients. Sometimes it's a little too much, and sometimes you get into the liability end of the pool. Okay.
I was told I had to be the one that sent all the documents to the lawyer and the mortgage company.
Nope.
Okay. All right then.
You do not have to. You do not have to. It is, sometimes I say, yeah, make sure your lawyer and your mortgage specialist gets all the contract, all the information you need, or they need.
Okay. All right.
But it's not a must.
Perfect.
All right. So,
all right. Thank you.
So we've talked about a couple of little things, your experience, your expertise, some of your contacts, putting that service providers around your clients, your education, right? Do you have an accredited buyer's agency certificate? Are you known as a buyer specialist? Because when you're dealing with buyers, that might mean a lot to them. Oh, you're a buyer specialist? You work specifically with buyers, or you have elevated education credentials that say you're the best buyer's agent because you are highly trained, a fellow of the Real Estate Institute, FRI, that's higher professional standards. That might mean something to a consumer and bring more value, right? So any accolades that you can put in to show that you have higher education, higher experience, that you can to support your clients to add that value, right? Your marketing, that's a huge thing when it comes to your value. How are you going to market my property when it comes to sellers? Or even how are you going to be able to reach out to potential sellers to find a house for me as a buyer? And so that could be part of your value proposition. Okay. When you have a heightened value proposition that stands well above everybody else, it will protect your commission bottom line. They will respect you, they will work with you, you will be trusted, and they will be willing to pay you. Okay. It builds strong and trusting relationships when you have a high value proposition and you do what you say you're going to do, right? When you meet or exceed their expectations, you are going to build trusting relationships with those people, right? I trust James Lengel just based on what he's saying. I'm the fiduciary and I'm building this team around you because we have a similar belief system in how we do our job to the best that we can for you, the client. Wow, that was impactful. You go back to the value proposition, something that's impactful or memorable. That was it. Okay. Okay, value proposition examples. How does an Airbnb throw out their value proposition to draw in people to work with Airbnb? So Airbnb, this is their statement. Airbnb exists to create a world where anyone can belong anywhere, providing healthy travel that's local, authentic, diverse, inclusive, and sustainable. That's their value proposition. When somebody reads it, why do I want to deal with Airbnb? That's it. Walmart, everyday low prices for a broad range of goods that are always in stock in convenient geographic locations. That's their value proposition. State Farm, I love this one. Here to help life go right. That's plain and simple. That's their value proposition. State Farm is here to help life go right. That's a broad term, right? What does that actually mean? All right. So you need to create your value proposition, your value statement, right? So when somebody says, hey, Karina Sanford, what's your value proposition? Well, if you were Airbnb, this is what you would say. This would be your value, right? Just that little draw, that little statement that kind of summarizes who you are and why you are the person that they want to call. All right. Connect to your value. All right. What Mark did, he connected into his value based on, well, I'm a newer agent, but I do work at KW, and I'm tapping into my market center value, right? If you go back into our training room, it has all of the things that you see that we convey or KW conveys for value, right? You have a tech committee, and you've got your culture, and you've got your education committee, right? And the ongoing education, such as Ignite, right? Training, education, that's stuff that's valuable. And then you can implement that kind of thing into your pitch to the consumer, right? You can talk about the numbers, right? How many agents that we have, the experience level of the agents that you work with, the training that you receive, the education that you receive, the tools that give you the advantage over and above your competition, right? Does anybody use the Collab Center on MLS for their buyer clients? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Great tool. Great tool. It keeps people off that are, what's that website I love so much? Viewpointrealty.ca. Keeps people off that, right? We're going to send you in real time. As soon as they come to the market, you're going to receive that email saying, hey, brand new listing for you, right? So then you draw them to them. I mean, that's a whole other thing. But the KW Market Center, find all of the goodies that you can look at and say, look at the strength of the company that I work with or the brokerage that I work with. And like what Market said is, I work with KW in this, and I work with a mentorship program and a productivity program, and I've got so much experience surrounding to support me, to support you. You're in good hands, right? So you tap in and connect to your value wherever that resides, right? And of course, being that market expert, right? That we talked about in the previous. Connecting to your value, again, I have access to a collective knowledge of experience of nearly 200,000 agents worldwide. Being the fiduciary, and this is where I'm going back to what James had articulated about the people around him. He gave me such a sense, like when he was talking, he gave me such a sense that he was serious about doing things in my best interest as a consumer. And if you convey your message to the consumer the way James just conveyed that message to us, you got him. Hook, line, and sinker. If you're in it for me, I trust you right away, right? So I can point you to reputable resources for service providers such as handyman, window washers, tax associate, financial advisors, mortgage specialists, lawyers, inspectors, all the like, right? I am here working on, and that's what fiduciary means. You're the fiduciary on behalf of your client. They're the third party appointed to work in the client's best interest. And when they know that and they feel that and you show that to them, you got them, right? You got them. Okay, market expert, I can help you price your home to sell because I am very in tune with the market of the moment, right? And so that's what we talked about in the previous session, knowing your market. And I'm a market expert, and these are the reasons why. And that is now starting to convey your value. Okay, the purpose of real estate, okay, for buyers, their goal is to find just the right home at the best price in the right time with the least number of problems. That's what they're saying. That's the mission for a buyer. The goal is to find just the right home at the best price, the right time with the least amount of problems. Okay. For sellers, their goal is to net the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of problems. Right. So both of them. Obviously, what we try to do is take the problems out of the equation. We're not here to talk about problems. We're here to find solutions. Right. So I was telling you, we just closed yesterday on a not closed, but we firmed up a deal yesterday that had a lot of challenges. And I said, guys, we're not here to focus on these problems. We are going to be solutions oriented here. We need to find the solutions to these things and find out whether or not this is going to work. If it doesn't work, yes, I know you're going to be disappointed because you have your heart set on this, right? So let's work together, see if we can find the solutions and then get to move on. If not, we get to move on one way or the other. Okay. So that's the purpose of the real. So when you're doing a buyer valuation, right? When you're doing, you're sitting with a buyer and you're trying to figure out, their wants and needs. Like, how do you package your value to a buyer? Okay. So Mark and I haven't sat and did the buyer presentation, but James and I have done it a number of times. But I think it's very important. I'm not the type of guy that just jumps and runs and shows houses. Anybody that knows me, that I do any teaching, you've got to come to the office. CTO, come into the office. That's what that acronym means. Come into the office. That's the first step in showing that you're the real estate professional. You don't just jump in the car and go show houses. That's the wrong way to do it. So you sit down with them and they say the top service areas of of the buyer evaluation proposition. You do a needs analysis for the client. That is you asking questions about what do you need in a home? What do you need in a community? And then you listen when you have that question. You prompt with some more questions to get a better understanding of what they need. What are their real estate needs? Okay, so listen to that. Then you got to get the pre-qualification, right? I like pre-approval. It's stronger, holds more weight as a pre-qualification. If you don't know the difference between pre-qualification and pre-approval, understand the difference because it means a lot. Neighborhood information. You got to be the area expert and know what's going on in that community. Okay, the home search. How are we going to find houses? What are the tools you use to be identified with houses on the market or even houses that aren't on the market? Equally as important. The ones that aren't on the market probably give your buyer the best advantage because nobody else knows about them, right? Making the offer. How to put together the best offer strategy for them to get the house. And that was more important than ever during 2020, all the way through 2022, right? Making the best, most competitive offer. And it still exists in some markets today. But how do you get the offer so crafted so well that still protects your clients to be able to get the house over the other 12 other buyers, right? How to effectively get the best offer accepted for your client. Negotiations, being an effective negotiator. That's part of your value proposition. Vendor coordination, I'm assuming they're talking about your preferred partners. Like, okay, now that we've got you under agreement, we've got to, get a good inspector in here. We've got to get your financing out of the way, all that kind of stuff. Pre-close preparation, that's what Laura's going to do on the very last module of this course. Laura's going to talk to you about how do you prepare your client to close the property, right? And then the closing day, right? All the things that, you already packaged, you already prepared them for, that the closing day is absolutely smooth. Right? I don't bother my clients after closing. I call them, congratulate them. Hey, I just heard it closed. I'm so happy for you guys. Congratulations. I know it's going to be a busy time over the next little while, but I'm going to drop by and I want to see how you settled in maybe in a week's time. Would that be okay? Right? That's the closing conversation that you have. And then making sure that everything was swimmingly, because if you did your pre-close preparation, they're excited, they've got the keys, and then you're going to check in on them when they get settled. And that's the post-closing relationship beyond that. Like, life doesn't end after this transaction for us. This is a kind of a Realtor for Life program, and I want to make sure that I'll check in from you to time. If there's anything you need, I want to be your go-to resource. So if you come up with a maintenance problem with your house, call me, because I'm sure I've got somebody that I can send over to help you. You know, the furnace is acting up or the heat pump. Hey, listen, I'm gonna put you in touch with this technician because they'll do it for free. Those kind of things. All right. So that's your value proposition and how you build your value proposition based on these top 10 service areas. Okay. Same thing with sellers. You do the needs analysis, you do a pricing strategy with them. Okay. How do you present your property? Right. You got to get, I'm going to do my job with the marketing strategy. Right. I got to sell it online and I'm going to do the best job that can be done. But once I bring them to the house, the property better be in the condition that they expect, because you got to meet or exceed their expectations. Because if they don't, guess what? They're going to be disappointed. And if they're disappointed, they're not going to pay you as much money. And they might not even buy the house. Right. So we got to do this together. Right. You got to prepare the property, and then I'll go bang out the best marketing I can for it. Once we receive an offer, okay, I'll be able to assess the offer for you, show you the good, the bad, and the indifference, and then we can negotiate it to sell it. Right? We're going to get you the highest and best terms and conditions that we can in your offer. Then once you accept it or get it accepted, okay, we now help you through all of the conditions of the agreement to a point where we now firmed it up and we put a sold sign on the lawn. That's the day that we're looking forward to. Okay. Now we do the pre-close preparations like you did with the buyer. Same thing. You close it, with, making sure that everything's arranged with the lawyers, the financing, the payouts, all of that stuff for closing goes seamlessly. And then post-closing is continuing that relationship with that client, right? I'm there for you after closing. I just don't take the money and run, right? Okay. What buyers want most from their agent, and this statistic surprises me. What's the number one thing that buyers want from their agent? Can you see that? What's the number one thing the buyers want most from the agent?
Help them find their house.
That's crazy to me. That is crazy to me. Gary Keller put that up on when we were down at the convention in Las Vegas, and I was like, hold it now. I would have thought that would have been less than that 11% blue wedge that's in this circle. How many times do you introduce the buyers to the home? Most of my buyers are like real time. While I'm here with you, my buyers are online. New house just came up, Chad. I'd love to go and have a look at it. Buyers have access to all of these listings online. And when MLS went live, like we took the power away from the agents, MLS goes live and I'm like, oh no, they don't have to call me anymore. Right? They're not calling me anymore. Oh, I found a house. Or they're calling me and saying, are there any houses in this market in the area that I'm looking for? Well, they took that all away from me. And now they're just like, oh, they're surfing on their own. And I'm like, oh, wow. I don't feel as valuable to my clients anymore. They're doing all the work, right? They're going out and finding the house because it's all online. We've given all the information. I was feeling a little threatened at the time. And so I'm blown away with all of the online information, with all the websites that are blasting out all of these homes for sale, that they still want us to find them the right house. So when you're building your value proposition, you might want to say a little something about helping you find the right home, because that's what they want from you. And if that's absent in your value proposition to buyers, you're missing the most important element to them. So make sure that is built into your value proposition when you're talking buyer speak. The buyers want you to help them negotiate the terms of the sale. So isn't that an important thing to tell them when you're trying to advertise to come and work with you as a buyer specialist? These 4 things help them with the price negotiation and the negotiations of the terms of the sale and to find the right house. Now, when they say other, okay, down in my little notes, they talk about the other aspect. If participants ask what factors include in the other category, because the other category is significance, 24%. So what does that, what's all packaged into that 24%? Okay. Help with the paperwork. That's important. I don't know how to make an offer on a property, and I don't know how to execute a contract. So can you help me do that? Of course. We're going to, explain and provide the forms that we use. That's one of our service pledges to the clients. Determine what comparable houses are selling for so guide them in price. What are other houses selling for? Right, that's part of that 24%. Help determine how much the home buyer can afford. I don't get into that. Right? That's go talk to the mortgage specialist. That's their job, right? That's their expertise. I don't pawn it off because I'm lazy. I'm pawning it off because they're better at it at me, and I know what I'm good at, and I stick to that. Right? What I'm not good at is sitting down and banging out somebody's finances. I can, but they're the best at it. So go to them. So help and arrange financing. I think that's probably who's the right person to talk to when it comes to borrowing the money and getting me ready for a mortgage approval. Help teach the buyer more about the neighborhood. Okay, educate them about what's around, especially out of towners. Right? If somebody's new to the market, they need to lean on you to say, well, what's around here that will excite me? Right? Or support me in my lifestyle. Help find renters for a buyer's property. Yeah, 1% and other things. All right. So that's what a buyer wants most from theirs. And when I came away from, I don't know if it was Las Vegas or if it was the convention before that, Gary put this up and I was really surprised. Gary Keller put this up and I was really surprised about this. And I said, but thank you for that, Gary, because now I know when I'm building my value proposition and I'm marketing to buyers, I know what's important to them. So I make sure I have the bones of this in my value proposition so that they will want to come and work with me because that's what they're looking for. I'm not going to talk to them about things that they don't care about because I'm not going to attract them to me. I want to talk about what's important to them. And same thing was choosing an agent, making sure, like the way James was so kind of meaningful and passionate about what he was talking about and just building a team of service providers around him. I automatically felt invested in him being honest and trustworthy. When you tell the truth, when you go in and you tell a seller what they want to hear instead of what they have to hear, Mark and I talked about this yesterday, don't ever do it. Go work with them, but promise me that when it all goes wrong, you'll come back to me and I'll do it right. I want to be honest. It's the liar level thing. Do you want to deal with somebody who lies to you? Because they can't be trusted, right? Deal with somebody honest that will tell you what you need to hear, and that's the truth. The truth is buyers don't pay more than this for houses like yours. That's the truth. I'm sorry. If you had a problem with that, bring it up to the buyers and say, you're not paying enough for houses like mine, right? Mark and I laughed about that yesterday because I went into a little bit of a skit, right? How I would, blame the buyers. Don't blame me. Go running after every buyer, knock on the door and say, why didn't you pay more for this house? Because it affects my sale value because I'm already the list, right? So I went on and it was kind of a fun experience, but agents got to be honest and trustworthy. Agents' experience counts, right? They're looking at that. That's 19% of why buyers choose that agent, right? Their experience counts. The reputation, 17. I thought that would be higher, right? I thought that would be higher. 44%. Let's go and see what's bundled into that. The agent is a friend or family member. I hate that as the reason why. I don't want friends or family to come to me thinking they're doing me a favor by doing business with me. I want them to come to me because they recognize me as a real estate expert. And that's why they're coming to me. I don't want to be made to feel like they're doing me a favor by giving me the business. If I do business, I want to feel like I've earned it. I've earned the reason why you reached out to me and say, hey, listen, I heard you're great at what you do, and I want to deal with a guy like you. That's why I want people to come to me. And I hate this. No, well, you're a friend of mine, so I feel obligated. Go work with somebody else. Okay, the agent's knowledge of the neighborhood is important to them. The agent has a caring personality and is a good listener. I thought that good listener thing, carry that. That makes a big difference to people. If you're not listening, people don't think you give a shit about them. They don't think you care. because you don't have the time to listen to them of what's important to them. So if you don't have time to listen to what's important to me, I don't feel like you really care, right? Agent is timely with responses. I get that sometimes. I'm busy and maybe my phone has been blowing up. Somebody's been trying to reach me and I'm not getting back to them, right? And I get that from time to time. Chad, holy smokes, I called you about 2 hours ago. What's going on? You busy? Yep, I am. I apologize. However, right? Feedback that I can work on, right? I keep going to voice message. I need to talk to you, right? Whatever. Agent seems 100% accessible because the use of technology and smartphones, right? The minute that you can, like when you buy into like the Facebook ads where you can do lead capture through Facebook through command, the minute that lead comes in, they get an email, and I'm talking seconds. They get an email confirming, hey, listen, I saw you're looking at my roads, blah, 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 blah. But they get that response immediately, and it seems like it's actually coming from you. And that's the accessible, because they think the use of technology, you're that accessible all the time. Instant messaging for me is the go-to. People text me, you're likely to get a response, because every now and again, I'll glance down at my phone. But when I see there's something urgent, excuse me, I know this is your time and I promise this is your, 3 hours, but I have something urgent that I have to deal with. Do you mind if I do a quick response to this? Most of the time they're gonna say, yeah, go ahead, man, no problem. And so I'll go, okay, hey, listen, I'm in a meeting. Do me a favor, call the broker line, or I'll call you back. But, do I have to excuse myself for the meeting? Is it that urgent? Right? And so that's accessibility. And sometimes accessibility is a big thing. I sold 5 houses to people from Ontario in 2021 because nobody bothered to answer their phone. Nobody answered their phone, left messages, and nobody even responded to emails, text message, and phone calls. The agent didn't get back to me. I reached out to, you're probably the 5th agent that I reached out to, and you're the only one that answered your phone, or you're the only one that just got back to me in time. And I got 5 deals out of that. People coming from Ontario, every deal I did was probably over 600 grand because I answered my phone and I responded to people. That's only 1%, and I'm surprised that's not higher. Okay, so that's what buyers are looking for. Sellers, they want help pricing their homes competitively. That's a lie. They want more money than everybody else and more than market value. No, I'm kidding. I'm being facetious. They do want help to price their house competitively. All right, they want help. Help the seller to market the home to potential buyers. Right, effective marketing plan. So again, when I talk to people, Mark and I talked about this yesterday. James and I talk about this all the time. I've shared this with other people in other sessions. I boil it down to my 4 things. And right now you see 2 of those 4 things. Okay. Price, condition, marketing, commissions. Those 4 things are instrumental in the best results for a seller. The top 2, price and condition of home, right? So it's to help the seller sell the home within a specific time frame. That's that price adjustment. The higher the price, the longer it'll take. The lower the price, the faster to sell. Seller to find ways to fix up the home and to sell it for. So part of my value proposition for a seller, I do not buy business, so I do not stage people's houses. That's my own personal philosophy. There's agents in the office. I get a little bit, I guess, I don't know the right word, but I don't specifically agree. I'm going to pay to have somebody set up your house. I look at that and say, where does that come to an end? Okay. You're taking a responsibility of somebody's home. And I don't agree with that because, okay, well, they're going to stage the house, but what the outside looks like crap. Can you send somebody by to do the gardens as well? Because the weeds are all overgrown and so are the trees and the shrubs, and you got to trim them and share them and mow my lawn and fertilize so it's nice and green. Do you put that in your service too? Where does it end when you help people get their house ready for sale? And I say, At one point I push the responsibility, and that's where I draw the line. I don't send in stagers to get your house ready. That's up to you. Or you can pay the stager if you'd like. I pay for the staging consultation because that's where part of I leverage out. I feel that is part of my job to help the seller get, well, how do I set up my house so that buyers come in and they like it? I suck at that. I know I do. Laura can go in all day long, and I used to love to work with Laura because she'd go in and she'd like set people's houses up. I don't have that. I'm like, I don't know. I guess take all those pictures down, put up a couple of books, right? Your kids are kind of ugly anyway. No, but I do look at the house and I say, you know what? I'm not going to go through and pretend I know what I'm doing here. So I'm leveraging out. I pay my stager that I work with, who has absolutely fantastic results and such rave reviews. I pay her $230, so well spent for me. She goes in and does a very detailed assessment of the house. She tells room to room along with the seller, explaining what she should do. And then she goes home and puts together a comprehensive staging report to say, this is what we did when we went through and what I recommend room for room. Like I take this chair and I would turn it 45 degrees. Stuff as simple as that make a big difference to how the room or the house is presented through the whole thing, right? And so for me, I just look like getting it fixed up and ready for sale. I pawn that off to my stager and they help. Now I will say, you probably need to put in new countertops because you've got like burn marks on your countertops where your teenage kid took his, Mr. Noodles or his Kraft Dinner and put the hot pot right on the kitchen countertop. Like we all have those, right? And so, dumb kids, So that's the kind of stuff that you help your sellers decide what you do. Where should you spend the money? Don't ever spend the money on, spending tens of thousands on garden work because the gardens are money losers. You should know where to best invest your money as a seller. And that's usually in the cosmetic stuff inside the house. They say, oh, kitchens and bathrooms sell. Well, that's true, right? If you're going to spend money there. Don't go, buying $2,000 worth of bark mulch and have, a company come in and spread it for you. You're better to fix up your kitchen because it looks like a dog's breakfast, right? That's where you get the money back, not out there in the gardens, okay? That's what a seller wants. What do the sellers consider? Pretty much the same thing as what they look for in a buyer. A consumer is a consumer looking for a service provider. It doesn't matter if you're an agent or you're somebody else. The reputation, okay? The agent is honest and trustworthy. The agent is a friend or family member. Don't like that one, but 17% of people do choose their agent based on the fact that they're a friend or family member, okay? The other things dealing with that 44%, your knowledge of the neighborhood. You sit down and you dazzle them with your knowledge of knowing the neighborhood and the intricate details of the neighborhood. They're going to love you. They're like, wow, they know what they're doing. And they have the finger on the pulse of this area for sure. Okay. That you're caring and you're a good listener. Your commission only counts for 4% of their decision. I say hogwash on this decision, on this particular stat, right? Because I deal with it every single day when I go and talk to people, that most of the people that I don't know. Who can tell me the top 2 questions a seller will ask you? What are the top 2 questions a seller will ask you?
How much is my house worth?
That's number 1. What's number 2?
How much is your commission?
Bang on. Number 1 and number 2. So agent commission, only 4%. That's a stretch because just about every seller says, well, I can get it for cheaper and whatever. And so I'm like, well, go get them. I don't know. I don't fight that hard for when people try to downplay my value and don't want to reimburse me or pay me for what I offer. So I'd rather say no to the business as an investor of time and money than take the business and waste my time and take my real estate sign off when the listing expires and it's replaced with another person who will put it on at the price I recommended. Anyway, agents association with a particular firm. So your brand, what does that mean? Okay. Yes, Keller Williams has a big brand and it's a recognized international name, but it doesn't carry the weight that your name carries to that marketplace or that consumer. 4% of people, the consumers out there, say the brand you carry is important to me. That's it. 96% of the other decisions are made with all of the other things that are listed here. All right. It definitely helps because I find KW has such a great name out in the market. That when you say, some people are like, oh wow, yeah, you know what? I heard of your company and I had a friend that had a really good experience with your people. Great. So sometimes that helps reaffirm that they're making the right decision in you and the company that you work with. KW technology and your proposition. So talk about all of the KW technology that comes into the value you bring to the table with your clients, right? Get to know the tools that they offer because a lot of people don't invest the time to understand the support that KW offers with technology. Understand the value and the leverage that gives you and your clients over all of the other practitioners in the marketplace, right? I could go on for days. You want to know about the KW technology? I think Jen Kite McDonald is the ALC leader of the technology committee, right? Aaron is great. Aaron used to be our agent support person. I'll tell you, Scott at SLM Marketing, he and his team, they can go on for days about all the things about how to set you up to optimize your business through technology and implementing it, how to understand it, how to set it up, and how to use it. So get a hold of SLM Marketing today if you've got time. Say, listen, I just want a list of everything that I have access through KW technology. And put that in your value proposition, because that will absolutely make the difference, especially with the millennials. The people that are younger, that are tech savvy, if you're not up with them, you're ruling yourself out. They're like, oh man, listen, old man, if you don't know your technology in today's marketplace, I'm going to go deal with a younger agent. And God bless all you younger agents that know how to use all this stuff, because I haven't a clue most of it. Okay, so 3 steps to defining your value proposition. Identify your knowledge, attitudes, skills, and beliefs, okay, that make you qualified to be a great real estate agent. Okay, do you come from, like, attitudes? What do they mean specifically by attitudes? I touched on this a little bit earlier, but what do they mean by that? The feedback that I got about the feedback that I got about the inspector. He came with a very negative attitude. Everything came from the negative. You have to identify with that. Are you coming with energy? Are you coming with the right attitude? Like, hey, I'm going to do the best job I can. Are you coming from, oh my God, this is going to be hard. Oh God, the market isn't what it was. All that kind of stuff is coming with the wrong attitude, right? So 3 steps to define your value proposition. Okay. Step 1, identify your knowledge. Okay. Understanding the attitude that you need to bring to the table when it comes to being in front of a client, your skill level, right? And look at your background. Doesn't have to be in real estate. You could be a nurse. That is a skill in itself. Being a teacher. You're a teacher in essence when you're in the real estate business. You're teaching people how to do this properly, right? Nurses, very caring people, most of them that I've ever met. Caring, compassionate people, right? That's what you bring, right? Oh, yeah, okay, that's a good fiduciary. Somebody who's invested in you, right? And your beliefs. James hit that right on the head when he said how he articulated his choices of service providers and why. Our values and beliefs have to align, and we really have to connect to make sure that we do the right thing for our clients, right? So that make you qualified to be a great real estate agent. Transform the value that you provide and the value of KW and your market center specifically, KW Select, into the benefits of your clients. What you're plugged into, use it to your advantage. And build your value proposition statement. That's the conclusion of this whole thing. Give thought to all of this. We talked about all the nuts and bolts that go into why. What are people looking for? What are values? What are these big, valuable things that you bring to the table? And this is what they're talking about, right? So go back to this. When it comes to when somebody asks, why do I deal with you? This is what you bring to the table for them. Take all of what you learned today, package this thing so that you can go and articulate it to your clients, okay? Your value proposition, when you're creating it, step 1, identify that knowledge, attitude, skills, and beliefs that make you the best qualified agent. Transform the value that you bring from the market center into that statement. And now go and build that value proposition. That statement that makes everybody say, I want to deal with you. You are the real estate expert of choice. Okay. So we kind of blew through that. I'm 2 minutes past time, but we're done. Okay. That's all about, and I'm going to stop sharing so I can see you guys face to face now. Okay, so that is, hopefully you get a great understanding of what you should be responsible as a real estate professional. How to get to know and be in touch with your market and know it to a higher degree than your competition. Most importantly, know it more to a higher level than your clients. Because if your clients have more knowledge of your job than you do, then what use are you to them? Comes up often. We have a very sophisticated consumer these days, very knowledgeable. Because why? The information's at their fingertips. They want to know something. They want to know how to do it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to sell this house by myself, and I'm going to go on YouTube and say, how do I do the most effective open house? They can go there and they can learn how to do their own open house, right? All the ways I can prepare my house for sale, right? So what do they need you for, right? They do need you. You are the fiduciary. You're the person that is the skilled, knowledgeable, trusting real estate expert that they want to deal with. Believe me, they want to deal with you. It's not like they don't want to deal with real estate agents, because I don't know what the statistic is. We should find it. But I'm going to say over 90% of real estate transactions happen with real estate agents, which means almost all of the people out there transacting in real estate don't want to do it alone. They don't want to do it without you. They truly don't. They want you involved. You just have to show them why you should be. And especially when you hit them with the price tag, you really need to back that up. Why do you charge 2.5%? So I have a $500,000 home and you're saying $12,500 is what you're going to charge me to help me? Ooh, yowzers. I don't pay that to many service providers. Okay. So you need to be able to show your value proposition, and that includes all of that market knowledge that you have, to be able to package all of that in to say, you're the one that I want to work with. Absolutely have no problems with 2.5% or 5% because it makes sense to me. Okay, guys, well, that's it for me. I'm going to throw it out to you guys, and I would like to have a little bit of feedback on what you feel about first part, second part of this. All right, we'll take only a couple of minutes to kind of review it all. Coming into today, was there anything that stood out to you specifically? And they call these the aha moments. Like, is there anything that stood out to you guys where like, that is a good point. I wrote that one down. That really makes sense. I wrote that one down. Or I got to give more thought to that and see how I can place this or implement it into my business model. You know, throw something at me and just tell me that, you know, last 3 hours were kind of well spent.
I wrote down the absorption rate thing that you taught us.
Okay, perfect.
And I wrote down the quote that Jim Murphy gave you for do what you say you're going to do. You don't have to do more, but never do less. I wrote
Awesome.
that down.
Gives me goosebumps thinking about Jim saying that, because I'll tell you, wow, does that ever, that works so well and so impactful. Again, it's 28 years later. It resonates high in my memory. And when I look back, I'm like, you know what? I know in my career, I'm not flawless. I know when I've let my clients down, right? I said I was going to do it and I didn't. And that's a learning moment for me. God, why didn't I step up? Did I lose energy? Did I just lose focus? What happened to me there? But I can't do that again, because I promised them, and my word is everything, right? You need to be able to take your word to the bank. That's a great one. I appreciate that you wrote that down.
I love the framework for defining your value, because that's something that's kind of hard to do, really.
Yeah. So I'm that type of learner. If I sit down and I write out a real estate overview for my seller clients, because I do that personally. When I list a house, that's the only thing that I do. It's the only thing I do for the whole listing, right? My administrator does everything, all the rest. But I write the overview because I sit down and I think of my target market. Who is my best buyer here? Or who are my best buyers? Go to 88 Chapel Street in Dartmouth. I sold that, I don't know, in the spring or maybe last year. And I reread that and I said, wow, I did a bang up job on that, because I really invested in who could this buyer be? Who are the potential buyers for this property? And it wasn't just the homeowner looking to get in there. I reached out to investors. I reached out to families of different sizes and whatever. So I really thought hard about who this buyer would be, or who the qualified buyers who are likely to spend the most amount of money on this property, by the way. And this property, I think we ended up getting like 130,000 over asking for it. I think somewhere in that ballpark. But the framework that you're talking about, Mark, is the same thing as what the framework that they brought out. Like, how do you write? What are the nuts and bolts? How do you write out a value proposition in a sentence or in a statement or a paragraph? So what I do is I sit down and I point form the most essential elements, right? For me, it's like a good investment because you can put up to 3 units in this property. That's bullet point. It's a great one because it's in a great school zone. I got to make sure that that's in there and so on. So that framework is a bullet point for me. So I take all of those elements and then I have to stitch it all together with the sexy wording, right? All of the beautiful, descriptive words that make, that's a great overview because it's stitched all together. It's not just, home features, upgraded this, blah, blah, blah. It's just a laundry list of features with no personality involved. And that's where those colorful adjectives that you stitch into your overview and things like that, that's where it really comes to life. And I think that's when your value proposition, here's the nuts and bolts, like you're saying, Mark. Here's the things, the essential elements that you have to implement. Now stitch it all together and see what you come up with, right? You'll have to probably do it a number of times over and over. Edit it, pass it off to a friend or a colleague or a family member and say, hey, listen, can you read this over and you tell me what you think, right? When you're building your value proposition, take what we just taught you, throw it together, see how it sounds to you. Does it describe you and what you want people to perceive you as? Right? Then go back to work on it until you feel like, yeah, I think I've really conveyed who I am and what I'm going to do for the client. And then pass it off to somebody else and say, what do you think? Right? Get some help on it and get some input. Right? What else, guys? Anything else?
I really was looking forward to this session today, not just because you're an awesome instructor, and I really appreciate the way that you lay things out on the table because it's very real. It's not like just reading off slides, but that it's very meat and potatoes. There's a lot to the context of what you do, and you give a lot of examples. So I couldn't wait to this, but I find that these 2 lessons are really powerful because they're very foundational, right? You build a lot of stuff off of them, right?
Amen.
And so it's great, like the way that things are broken down, like I call them the little balloon designs, but the little offshoots as far as knowing your market and like the stats piece. I find I'm weak with stats. And so that was really helpful for me, just the lingo and how you get to those pieces, because that's what I want to get better at in order to launch that side of my expertise more so that I can pitch it better. Yep. And then the value stuff is always great, but I love the little charts that kind of talk about, the top 10 service areas and the values, because it really breaks down in bits and pieces, all those areas. And it just sparks ideas on, oh, I need to focus on this. I need to remember this. I remember talking about this in your class. And now I remember I need to do some work on it. So the education is just great. I love it. And I find sometimes you get into a lull where you're kind of like, I don't really know where to go next. And I find that these little things kind of plug you back in. They recharge you and you feel excited again. So
yeah, and I get that way when everybody does. When you go to a convention or you go to a high-powered training session, you walk away and the wheels are spinning, man. Oh my God, I'm going to implement this and I'm going to do that. I'm going to take on the world. All of a sudden, you feel like you're so jacked with energy, like, well, look out, real estate market, here I come, right? And so sometimes you just need somebody to come and pump your tires, right?
Yeah.
Give you that little reminder, little shot of extra energy to like start the wheels spinning and like, let's get serious about what we do. And I think that this is a big message that I get when I come away from stuff like this is let's just start getting serious about what we do, right? Let's stop being the people that just open the door and fill out blanks, because that was the sum of the talent in our industry for a few years. And I'm so glad that they put on Ignite when they did, because it's so good timing. And the shift of the market, guys, you just sharpened up your skills. When you go out, you're now going to start putting serious thought into your business and you're going to start executing things in a way that nobody else is doing out there. All right, so we're running a little past time. Again, I do this on Wednesday nights too. I'll stay as long as you want me to, because I booked off, most of today to deal with this, but nothing pressing and urgent. I've got my people in the background keeping everything afloat, so I'm not pressed for time. If you're pressed for time and you want to log off, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for sticking and going the distance today. I hope it was valuable to you all. I did my best. It's only the second time I've ever done this particular unit, so hopefully I served you all right. But anybody that wants to stick around and ask questions, have conversations amongst us, amongst the group, I don't want to talk anymore. I'll be happy to interject my thoughts or whatever, but at the end of the day, feel free to, I'll be here I'd love to have kind of a bit of a social time with you guys if you want to stick around, and we can further the conversation. But feel free to log out if you have to go, and feel free to stay and continue on the speakeasy.